Are we knocking out the
Welcome to another episode of Everything College Basketball Podcast, where you'll find out everything that happened in the college hoops world. Now, here's your host of the show, Josh, Peyton, and Tyler.
That's all, folks.
Welcome back to another edition of Everything College Basketball, presented by the Applied Right Painting Services. In conjunction, we promised last week was a snafu. We are back in the lovely Premier Giant Studios. I'm, of course, Josh Burton.
I'm Peyton Burton.
Tyler Cook's back, boys and girls.
He's back.
And he's back. Tyler, do you want to go ahead and fill everybody in why you were absent? Not just because I shot you.
It wasn't a bullet injury. It wasn't nothing like that. You know, I got the SOS messages. Hey, guys, asking where I was at. But I actually, we had our baby girl last Monday. She was probably being delivered about the exact same time these guys were following through without me and going on with last week's podcast. So, yeah, we had a little baby girl, and that's the reason why I missed. But she's drinking beer and smoking right now, so we're okay. She's old enough to handle herself already, so we're good to go.
Yeah, actually, on the podcast last week, he texted us as we were recording. We were probably previewing the Sweet 16, and he texted us.
Yeah, he sent us a picture, and I showed Josh as he was talking. So, yeah, that was pretty cool.
So if you remember, I alluded to it last week that he was gone for personal reasons, exciting personal reasons. So we didn't want to spill the beans. We waited till he was back. But we were back, all three of us, and back in living color. And my Lord, we mentioned it last week. The first and second rounds, it was more chalk, right? A few upsets. Did or did not the Sweet 16 and Elite 8 make up for the excitement factor? Everything you wanted in the NCAA tournament, I think it over-delivered.
Every bit of it was that and more. You know, I haven't seen a structured round between the Sweet 16 and Elite 8 this exciting, this much back and forth, this many. I mean, there was overtime. We had everything. Anything and everything you could want. We had controversial calls. We had tip-ins. We had buzzer beaters. Everything that you would want as a college basketball fan was here this weekend.
And if you guys thought Central Florida versus Duke game, the second round, was the game of the tournament, you might want to think again, because I think we got some new candidates for the game of the tournament.
I mean, we'll get into them, but I swear the Sweet 16 and especially the Elite 8 was as good of basketball that you'll find anywhere. It seemed like every game was close. And not only that, fellas, but you had some outstanding individual performances inside these rounds.
I hate to say it, but I'm going to do it because I don't care. He deserves it. Carson Edwards sticks out at the top of this list. I don't care who else was doing it. Carson Edwards had one of the best performances, not just in a game, but in the tournament. This guy, Carson Edwards, what he scored, he hit the most three-pointers in a thing.
Tournament, yeah.
And the guy that did it before was Glenn Rice. If you don't know who Glenn Rice is, you need to check him out. I wore number 41 all the way until high school because of Glenn Rice. Just because I love this guy, he could shoot the ball. But Carson Edwards broke this record before, not even going into the Final Four. This kid was hot.
Also, he did break another record I've seen, most points in a tournament. for the whole tournament. He beat Steph Curry.
Yeah, and he did that in 4 games.
4 games.
4 games. Just outstanding performance. He wasn't the only one. Like I said, we will get into that more as we go into the recaps. And, man, what performances, what games that we have to talk about. And, fellas, we're down to our Final Four. We are down to the Final Four. As big as week as this was, this Sunday, for all of you wrestling fans, was WrestleMania. WrestleMania Sunday this Sunday. And no better place to turn to for all your pre-WrestleMania coverage than where, Peyton?
Conrad Cushman is the host of the Everything Pro Wrestling podcast. Everything Pro Wrestling is a show by the fans, for the fans. And you can find that show on Anchor, iTunes, Google Play, and Spotify, and all other podcast hosting sites. He also has a YouTube channel, so go to youtube.com and in the search bar type in Everything Pro Wrestling and hit that subscribe button for him.
Yes, sir. And as we mentioned before, we got JRO, our good buddy here with Applied Right Painting Services, commercial, residential, new construction, anything you want for your painting services and needs, JRO is the man. He is down in Kentucky right now doing a commercial job right now, and he's doing a fantastic job. He's putting up pictures. He's letting everybody know his work. So we're backing you, JR, and you're backing us, and we appreciate it. But to get back to the sports aspect of this, the college basketball thing, this is probably the coolest stat that I have found. In the Elite 8 round, 26 ties, 42 lead changes, 2 overtime games, and at the end of regulation, not including the 2 overtime games, the end of regulation, the margin of the scoring margin between all these games at the end of regulation was just 7 points.
Jeez.
7 points. Now, we're going to leave you on a high note there. We're going to let Noah from Premier Giant Productions run us this ad from our Real Life Music crew, our music from Real Life Music crew, and we'll be right back at you with to recap some games, guys.
We got a game plan and we put it in a bag. We tryna build fans, y'all a game that respect. And not the rubber bands, yeah I know it sounds crazy, but we ain't tryna get rich, homie, yeah you know it.
Tryna live the good life, living the dream without a care in the world. I know it takes time, but I'm ready for the things I deserve. Gotta stop doing this for you, gotta do it for me. Once I know what I'm worth, I can do this for free. I'm tryna live the good life. I'm tryna live the good life.
Yeah, first thing when we wake up, we start trying to think of another song that'll make you bob your head and smile and say, man, this song's a banger. But it's easier said than done, especially when you're alone the funds and working your butt off producing this music.
And we're back, and as promised, like we do every week, we're recapping the Sweet 16, the Elite 8. We maybe even throw some women's NNT talk if you're lucky, if you're good boys and girls out there. But kicking it off, Sweet 16, it started on Thursday night. First game to tip off was a banger of a game. 2-seed Tennessee, 3-seed Purdue out in the Midwest. Louisville was rocking. First of all, let's give credit to that Louisville crowd. Okay, between the Purdue fans, Tennessee fans, Virginia fans, and Oregon fans, I don't know how much Oregon really brought, but them 4 schools, the Yum Center gets rocketed for big games anyway. It was when the University of Louisville plays there. But for these 4 teams, that atmosphere Thursday was reverberating through the TV screen. When I was sitting there watching, I was like, man, how fun would that be there? Like, especially if you're a player, feeling that energy, you could feel. To me, that right there is a big difference between college and the NBA.
Every bit of it. I went 3 years ago, I believe. Kansas played Maryland, and Villanova played Miami, and the gym just wasn't full. Like it wasn't that big of a crowd. Kansas had a pretty big showing. Nova was all right, but between the other teams, there wasn't nothing there. When you looked at the screen of this region right here, these guys were pumped. It was packed, and like you said, you could feel the electricity coming through the screen.
Man, Yum Center, they did a great job. The place was electric. I've been there before this year to watch Louisville, Kentucky. The place was electric for that game. And for the Sweet 16 games, holy balls. These games were incredible, especially this first one, Tennessee and Purdue. We had some amazing performances for Purdue. Edwards, 29 points. Klein, 27. Like, it was a two-man show for them, and they played absolutely phenomenal. And what a game.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's go ahead and just kind of get into the game. You mentioned it. You know, Tennessee, we've all talked about how good Tennessee was, correct?
Yep.
Grant Williams, Admiral Schofield, Jordan Bone, Bowden. The list goes on and on. Tennessee's as deep as they come in America. And Purdue has overachieved in a lot of ways. You know, they were able to snag a share of the Big Ten title. This was supposed to be their rebuilding year.
Yep.
This was supposed to be the year that they took a step back maybe to get ready for the following years, and they end up going and winning a share of the Big Ten title. They end up a 3-seed in the NCAA tournament. And Carson Edwards, any struggles that he had throughout the end of the year, middle of the year, those games where he'd go 1 for 25, those went out the window as soon as the tournament started. He showed up like an All-American in this tournament. You already gave him some props, but my Lord, what a show he put on.
This kid right here, man, he came out balls to the wall. It didn't stop until that final buzzer went off on Saturday. This boy just kept going. But, you know, for Tennessee, man, these guys fought back. They were getting whooped. Purdue was putting a whooping on these guys, and Tennessee fought and clawed back to force it to overtime, ultimately losing 99-94 in overtime to Purdue. But, you know, you had Williams and Schofield both had 21 points apiece. As the teams here, they both teams had 16 assists apiece. They both had 5 blocks apiece. The free throws was terrible on either side. 16-33 for Purdue, 14-28 for Tennessee. But, you know, as far as an entertaining game, you know, back and forth, you know, a clawing game, this was one that was really, really good. I mean, there wasn't nothing that you didn't want from this game.
You mentioned Peyton or Tyler, so you mentioned free throws, and it seemed like free throws became a big storyline for a lot of other games. But Tennessee, again, you alluded to it. Tennessee fights back. Tennessee has the wherewithal and the ability, the talent, the overall experience to fight back. Purdue jumps them early. Tennessee claws back to even take the lead. And it looks like at the end of the game, they have control to win the game. But as good as Carson Edwards was, he was outshined by one of his teammates in this game.
Yep. Ryan Klein, 27 points, shot 7 from 10 from the three-point line. There was one point in the game, he had like 3 threes in a row. He was lights out. And Carson Edwards, I'm looking here, he played the whole game. He played the whole 45 minutes, whole 40 minutes of a regulation, and then plus 5 minutes in overtime. He played the whole game, and he still had 29 points, 4 rebounds, hit 5 threes himself. But yeah, free throw shooting for Tennessee really killed him. I know Purdue didn't shoot the ball well from free throws either, but very late in the game, there was a controversial call that Carson Edwards, they was down, what was it, 2 points?
They were down 3.
No, it was down
No,
2.
2 because Carson missed the first free throw, right? You're right.
And Carson had a shot in the corner for a 3, and he got fouled. They called it a foul. I don't know if you guys, I think it was a foul. I think you shouldn't jump on that situation, really. Just put your hand up. But no other way, he misses the first free throw, and everybody's worrying, like, come on, are you going to be an All-American or not? And then he comes back and hits the second free throw to tie the game up. Or hit the 2 free throws to tie the game up. Showed diversity right there. He missed the first one, came back and made the 2.
I'll go ahead and say I think it was the right call. If you clearly, I don't remember if it was Bone or Bowden that jumped at him in the corner, but the top hand was high by the ball. It's that bottom hand that swung into him and hit him in the midsection. I think it's the right call. I think you call the foul there.
Yep. Every bit of it.
But Purdue and Tennessee put an absolute banger of a classic on. You mentioned Ryan Klein. How many shots did he hit where he would catch it a good 5 feet from the three-point line, which I swear on everything, he caught one. They ran like a zipper cut. He comes up from underneath the rim. His face is facing the opposite goal, his back toward his own rim. He catches, turns around somehow, and hits over somebody. And he's got this line drive shot. He shoots right here. There's no arc on the shot. It just, but he hit, and my Lord, what a performance. What do you go for, 27?
27 points.
27.
Yeah, he went 10 from 13 from the field. 7 of them was three-pointers.
And how good, before we get to Tennessee and the hype and season they had and all this, how good were the role players from Purdue during this whole run, especially this game? Just focus on this. How good was a guy like the freshman Wheeler? How an athletic kid. How about Nogel Eastern, the defensive stopper? Like, Purdue has these guys that are just like, wow, man, the future's bright in West Lafayette.
Yeah, they talk about everybody gets all mad, but they didn't score no points. They didn't do this. They didn't do that. It's not about putting the ball in the hole sometimes. Sometimes you got to be the guy that stops the other team from putting it in the hole. Sometimes you got to be the guy that rips down the offensive glass and give you a second opportunity. And Purdue, for 99% of this tournament run, they had every bit of that. You know, with Carson Edwards going off a couple good games, everybody's like, well, they needed some help. Well, he had the help. They just didn't have enough at the very end of it. But in this game especially, they had all the intangibles that you needed to win this game.
Before we go to Tennessee real quick and start talking about their season, I want to say this real quick. Because after that game, all I was seeing on Bleacher Report, Twitter, and Facebook was people complaining about the fouls, and especially the foul late in the game, the controversial one. People just kept on complaining on it, and we witnessed a hell of a game, and it made me upset. It got me really pissed off that everyone's talking about that controversial call instead of talking about what a game we just seen. And that really annoyed me.
Because that's just scapegoat for a lot of people, especially if your team doesn't if your team doesn't win, you want to figure out a reason. Like, oh, well, it's whatever. I mean, that's going to happen.
Yep.
Tennessee, though, my props are to Rick Barnes and Tennessee Volunteers. A guy like Admiral Schofield, Grant Williams is a junior, but presumably played his last game in the Tennessee Orange. Mm-hmm. Those guys have been the foundation and the resurrection, or behind the resurrection of Tennessee basketball. Rick Barnes is a masterful coach, and Tennessee's in great hands because those three men have left it in great shape. Tennessee, outstanding. You bring back, like I said, essentially 10 guys, add some new guys in. You're experienced. You're deep at every position. There's really nothing you don't do well. And you've played the likes. You almost beat Kansas. You beat Louisville. You beat Kentucky twice. You win you finished second in the SEC, runner-ups in the SEC tournament. Outstanding. You got a 2 seed. And then this is not a knock on Tennessee basketball, but Tennessee, it's not a Kentucky or a Kansas or a Duke or where 1 seeds and 2 seeds every year the norm. This is a special year for Tennessee, and they were in conversation at the 1. I'm a firm believer, had they beat Auburn, they get the 1 seed. They get a 1 seed.
Every bit of it.
100%.
Tennessee, what'd they go? How many wins on the year? They go 28 wins, 29 wins. I'll have to look it up. But Tennessee, just a fantastic year. Like I said, those 3 guys. And then you guys got like Jordan Bone. This is one of those weird cases that I don't know if you're a Tennessee fan. You feel proud because of the progress in the season you had, but they're also a little empty because you were good enough to make the Final Four.
Yeah, they had the pieces that they need. You spoke on it pretty well, but
got 31 wins for Tennessee.
31.
You hit that 30 number. That's something special to have in any season. Mm-hmm. But Rick Barnes just needed the fresh start, and this was a perfect scenario, a perfect storm for him. Look for Tennessee to continue to rise and get back to the teams they used to be. You know, they had Chris Lofton was one of my favorite Tennessee players in recent memory. Boy can put it in the hole. But you got a team right now that laid a foundation, and hopefully Rick and his team of coaches continue to build and grow this program back up to a pretty high caliber team year in and year out, and it'd be good for them, the SEC, and for the country.
Oh, for sure. Mm-hmm. For sure. So Purdue moves on, beats Tennessee. Purdue moves on to the Elite Eight, a spot that they hadn't been to since 2000 under Gene Cady. A spot that, I mean, again, no offense, Purdue fans. It's just you don't get there a lot.
Nope.
So good on Purdue on that. We moved down, and the other semifinal, Sweet 16 game inside that own region right there was the 1 seed Virginia playing the 12 seed Oregon. And this is a game me and Peyton, even Tyler wasn't here, but me and Peyton previewed it, and we both had Oregon winning. And if you watch the game, it really took every bit of Virginia's grit and determination to win on defense. Oregon even fought back. Virginia got them down 7 or 8 points. Oregon fought back. That Pritchard hit well. They attacked the rim. They just could never speed the game up to a comfortable pace for them and an uncomfortable spot for Virginia. Then, again, Ty Jerome hit some shots. Virginia escaped 53-49.
Yeah, it was 53-49. They did escape. This was a low-scoring game, 53 points for Virginia. It's kind of how the game they want to play. They don't want to be in a high-scoring game, like a game we'll mention here later on. But Kyle Guy, he went 2 from 11 from three-point. He usually shoots like 45% from three, so he had a little bit of off night. And fun fact, this game was in the Yum Center. He has not hit a three-pointer in the Yum Center to this game. The whole time, I'm pretty sure that's a fact, because I remember seeing it somewhere on Twitter.
He said, I'm pretty sure
I'm pretty sure it's a fact, but
97.3% sure.
it's close. I have a good probability it's a fact. But yeah, not hit a three-pointer in the Yum Center. He doesn't really shoot the ball well there, but he came out, hit 2 threes, 10 points, 4 rebounds. Kind of an off night for him. But Jerome.
Oh, my bad. I've got us playing. I'm listening to ourselves. Sorry. See how we look.
God.
Hunter, he played well. 11 points, 4 rebounds. Jerome, 13 and 6. Clark, 12 and 4 and 6. He had a hell of a game. But yeah, and Diakite, 7 points and 11 rebounds.
Diakite will be a big factor for Virginia going forward. Tyler, Virginia over Oregon, your initial thoughts? Because, again, you're a big proponent of Virginia in this style, and they just held another team to under 50 points.
Does this style work yet for you? Final Four team, does this style work for you yet?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll say yes.
Okay.
They proved me wrong. I'll say yes.
There's a fact. I got another one for you. Summer, you are absolutely right. These guys are a slow, methodical team. They are a defensive team. It showed 100% true right here that the defensive paralysis of Virginia is what gets them where they need to be year in and year out. 53 points that's low for a high school team. These guys barely hit the 80s. Hit 90s one time throughout the year, and that was against the Cupcakes at the beginning of the year. That was probably when they just said, go have some fun, let's see what happens. But when they got into the conference play, and all in the conference tournament, stuff like this, they got to their roots, and they slow down, and they grind on you. And that's what they did to beat the Ducks.
Yeah, so we have a matchup we'll talk about here in a little bit. Chance for a Final Four bid. We had Virginia and Purdue. We'll save it though. Yeah, that's another interesting
another game of the tournament.
So we move on to the East. We had Duke, the number 1 seed, escaped the prior game in the second round against UCF. The ball rolls around the rim and falls in Duke's favor. So obviously we all thought Duke bounces back, correct? They're going to just run right through Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech's a team that beat them in this season. Obviously without Zion, but they still beat them, correct?
Yep.
So what's Duke do? They have another shot from their opponent, hit the rim 2 inches from it. It's like Duke and Coach K at that time had put a hex on the opponent around the rim. No ball shall enter thy cylinder.
Yeah, in this game, Cam Reddish did not play in. He supposedly had a leg injury, and it was hurting too bad, so he did not play. But, yeah, Duke escaped this game. Blackshear for Virginia Tech had a hell of a game. 18 points, 16 boards. Congrats to him. That's a hell of a game. But one of my favorite players on Duke is Trey Jones. He had a career-high 22 points. He came out. Cam Reddish did not play, like I said. He came out and balled out. He hit some threes. He actually went 5 from 7 from 3. And
Virginia Tech used the same game plan that we said that UCF had laid the foundation for. You back off Jones, you back off Goldwire, you back off anybody not named Cam Reddish and R.J. Barrett, and make them shoot. And Trey Jones was actually able to hit some shots this game.
Yeah, man, he hit a high percent of his shots, and Duke won. But yeah, you mentioned that shot. It was perfectly executed, wide open. The dude's floating to the left and kind of like a volleyball serve, kind of basically laid it up there and barely hit the rim, wasn't really even close.
I'm of theory, Tyler, you can say I'm right or wrong. I'm of theory of that last shot because, that was wide open. It was such a great play by Buzz Williams. Down underneath, everybody assumed that they'd go for the win, popped corner, so Duke shaded everybody that side of that corner. You just simply set a dummy screen, roll around back to the rim. It's wide open. I think the kid seen Zion in his peripherals and left it short. I think it was in his mind, and he gator-armed it and left it short because he thought, oh, man, Zion, instead of focusing on the rim, he focused on the person to the side of him.
They slow-mowed this down, and you could see the little look to the right a little bit. But then you got to think, you were in the tournament, win or go home. Mm-hmm. You are fighting Goliath right now. Every time you turn on the TV, Duke, Zion, he broke a shoelace, he He shit his pants the other day. Everything that you wanted to hear and see, it was about Duke. You had an opportunity to tie and have a chance to fight for another 5 minutes.
Yep.
And with Zion coming out, getting close to blocking you or whatever, but a lot of factors run into this. And if you were in practice running this isn't easy. This is 2 points all day.
Oh yeah.
But when you lace them up and you got the other team on you, the crowd's going, all the anticipation. It was executed perfectly until the missed shot, and it was just bad luck.
That's a
bad
tough
luck.
one that will live with that kid for a long time. I'm sure if it was me, it would be replaying it still right now. I'd be like, oh.
Yeah, man.
We'll see it next March for sure before the tournament starts about all this. There's a lot of hot moments, but this is going to be one that was kind of a letdown that they're going to show. I guarantee it.
And how lucky. When I say lucky, it doesn't mean a team's not good. So before all you Duke apologists come after me, when I say a team's lucky, it doesn't necessarily mean they're not good. I think Duke was really good. But you think 2 games in a row, they get in the NCAA tournament, they get by with teams missing essentially point-blank layups around the rim. It's pretty lucky.
That's 100%
it's pretty lucky.
That's 100% lucky.
So who would Duke be facing in the Elite Eight with the Final Four bid on the line? You have the Tom Izzo-led Michigan State Spartans versus the 3-seed LSU Tigers. I originally thought LSU would win this game. I predicted it last week. I thought LSU's depth in the front court would be too much. And a Tom Izzo-led Spartan team does what a Tom Izzo-led Spartan team does in March. We got more on Tom Izzo here in a little bit. But Michigan State, this is one of those games that wasn't even close, really. I mean, it was early, and then Michigan State went on a run in the last 6-7 minutes and really blew them out. Michigan State wins 80-63 over LSU. The result, the team that winning doesn't surprise us, but does it surprise you, the margin of victory?
Not really. Not really. I knew LSU was capable, but with the stuff going on behind the scenes, it's going to catch you. You don't have your coach from all year on the bench. And plus, you have, quote unquote, Mr. March on the other end. This guy can game plan like no other. And when you compound a couple things, you get a snowball effect. LSU played well before this, really well.
Yeah.
But then with the factors off the court, I think that was a little bit of a factor. And also, the Mr. March factor came into play with this one.
Yeah, Michigan State fans, they should thank me because I put a curse on LSU. Last week I said my bank on LSU was going to defeat Michigan State. I was hella wrong. One even game. Only offensive production LSU got was Tremont Waters, who had 23 points and hit 4 from 9 from 3. He was the only production on offense, and Bigby Williams had 11 points. So, I mean, Spartans played well.
The game inside the game we were all excited for was Cassius Winston versus Tremont Waters. Two of the best small guards, maybe the 2 best small guards in America. Maybe throwing Chris Clemens in there as well, Marcus Howard. But Cassius Winston ate him up.
Yeah.
Cassius Winston his stat line's good. He can go get you 20 and 10. But it's his leadership qualities is what's really impressive.
Yeah, Cassius is one of those guys that he doesn't look the part for me, but just he's a grinder. Day in and day out, he gets it done. What's the cat's name they lost this year?
Langford.
Langford. And when you lose a piece like that, sometimes you crumble.
Yeah.
We've seen it with Kansas losing Udoka Azubuike. These guys did the polar opposite. They came together. They started working together. Cassius steps up. Ward steps up. Aaron Henry steps up in this game in particular.
Yep.
But, they just do things that they need to do to get it done, and Cassius is one of those guys.
Yeah, so moving down to the West in Sweet 16 action, we had out in Anaheim, California, the 1-seed Gonzaga Bulldogs, 4-seed Florida State Seminoles. I was of the assumption that Florida State's length, athleticism, overall size would give Gonzaga enough fits to win the game. And Gonzaga's offense was able to shine through, really. Josh Perkins was big.
Yep.
Rui Hachimura played like the All-American he is. And Gonzaga was able to kind of coast by at the end, beating Florida State 72-58. Really any surprises other than the fact maybe the margin of victory?
Margin of victory, definitely. I thought Florida State would win this game because, like you said, the athleticism. But coming into this game are both problems with Florida State. Could they hit shots consistently? Yeah. And they did not. So Gonzaga ended up winning a pretty comfortable win.
Yeah. Florida State only had one guy in double figures. It was Trent Forrest with 20 points. They lost the glass boards. They didn't do anything really noteworthy to do anything against Gonzaga, who is a really, really talented team, NBA caliber players. They're going to keep getting better. They got a top 5 recruiting class coming in, I believe. Gonzaga just rolls over Florida State. The score doesn't do this one justice. I know it's 14, but it could have been 24.
Yeah, that's very true. In Gonzaga, they're one of those teams that they're hit or miss with me. Sometimes I think they're really good. Sometimes I think that they're beatable.
Yeah.
But who would they be playing in the Elite Eight? 3 seed Texas Tech or 2 seed Michigan, the top 2 defenses in America. And it showed in the first half. This game at halftime, I think one team finally broke 20 points with a minute to go in the first half.
It was 22-18, I think. Something like that.
It was a case of really, really good defense and really, really bad offense. And the bad thing, this game followed as far as like TV coverage. You had Purdue, Tennessee, who just ended in a classic, and then you switch over to the other channel. It's Texas Tech and Michigan, the polar opposites. Score, everything. But both these do what both these teams did. They locked down. But we all have Texas Tech winning the game. I don't think any of us predicted that they beat Michigan by almost 20. Michigan's a team all year that we thought, and this is Final Four caliber, this team can really get it done. Even despite their struggles late in the year in the back half of the conference, this is a team that could get it done. They just got back Charles Matthews for the tournament, playing well again. Their defense is, like I said, the number 2. They kept flip-flopping with Texas Tech at one point and a high-power offense, but they were almost last in the nation in offensive possessions per game. Basically, they just didn't have a lot. And Texas Tech smothered them. Texas Tech smothered Michigan.
Yep. I was right on last week saying that this would be a defensive battle. First one to 60 wins. I was right on who would win. Texas Tech won, but I was not right on the scoring margin. I thought it was going to be a close game, close defensive battle game. It was not. Texas Tech dominated them on the defensive side. And Culver, he had 22 points, so he played well.
He almost had basically a third of Texas Tech's scoring. But, Tyler, we just mentioned Virginia in their Sweet 16 held a highest-powered offense to 49. Texas Tech, against a better opponent, held Michigan to 44.
Texas Tech didn't allow the 20th point until 24 minutes into this game. Jeez. First half plus the first 4. They always talk about the first 4 minutes of the half's most pivotal. Well, he didn't get 2 points. Got 2 points. They held Michigan to 5.3% from the three-point line, 1 of 19. This was one of the most difficult picks for me to make. Even with my own team and all this stuff, this was the toughest pick for me to pick because of the way Michigan's been playing and how hot Texas Tech got at the end of the season. The only reason why I picked Texas Tech, and I'm being dead serious right now because they're in the Big 12 and I need some help. Yeah. That was the only reason why. If this was any other team in the country, I would have picked Michigan just because of how much I like them.
Right.
But with the score of this, getting beat by 19 points, I never would have thought it. And only scoring 44 points, that's another mind blower to me from how well Michigan was playing. Culver did it. That Moretti guy, he had 15 points, 4 assists. Tech shot 43.6% from the field. Tech did everything they needed to do and then some to get this one.
So we move on. We have the last Sweet 16 region of the tournament. Move on to the Midwest. And we dubbed the Midwest the region of death, the group of death, whatever. Yep. And it most certainly was. You move on. You have the number 1 seed, North Carolina, versus the 5 and the red hot Auburn Tigers, SEC conference champions. And this was a game that we knew was going to be high-paced, high-action, tons of scoring. But let me take that back before I say something. We thought that Auburn had a chance. Auburn winning doesn't surprise me. It's how Auburn won. Auburn running in transitions their game. We knew that they would run with North Carolina. But my Lord, I did not see them absolutely running North Carolina off the floor.
No, not at all.
They won by 17 points, and the game, it was larger than that. The last couple minutes, Carolina was able to reel it back in a little bit. Auburn, you think about now in back-to-back games, Auburn ran Kansas off the floor, and they just ran North Carolina off the floor. They hit so many threes in the second. They were trailing at halftime.
Yep.
They hit 3 after 3 after 3 after 3. It's like, good Lord, Bryce Brown's on fire. Jared Harper and Chuma Okeke absolutely was the best player on the basketball floor that night. And then he goes down with an injury. We end up finding out it tears his ACL in his left knee. Prayers up to Chuma. He was absolutely, he doesn't. Nobody deserves that, but my Lord, the kid was having the game of his life. I sympathize with it. Having torn my ACL twice in my left knee, I know the pain, and it just sucks for him individually because he was having legit the game of his life. There was nobody in North Carolina that could stop him. Nobody could touch him.
No,
and he's a dangerous matchup of that athletic wing player that can defend, can score, shoot threes, post you up in me too, rebounds. He's a do-it-all type NBA style player. And it just sucks to see. But for Auburn absolutely murdered North Carolina.
Dude, Auburn hit 17 threes out of 37 attempts. If they can hit 15 or more threes in a game, they are very, very dangerous. And it showed in this one. Carolina really, they played well, but not to what I expected from them. I did not expect Auburn to win this game. I thought it would be high scoring, a close one. Thought Carolina pull it out just because they have Luke May, Cam Johnson, Kenny Williams, and Kobe White's been playing well here lately. So, and they got Will Williams as coach. I thought Carolina would pull it out. And coming into this game, you said it, Auburn, they like to run in transition, do the same things Carolina does. And people thought Auburn was crazy. They thought Bruce Pearl was crazy. Like, you're really going to run with Roy Williams and Carolina? That's what they do. And we're like, yeah, that's what they do, and we do it too, and we did it better. So, and you mentioned Chuma Okeke. Man, that's a tough injury. You've experienced it before twice.
Yeah, it sucks.
It sucks, and you can tell the emotion on his face after he landed. You can tell he's really hurting. And hats off to Carolina, by the way, because after that, Kobe White and the Carolina squad went over there and gave him props or whatever. Took his head and shook his head. They showed really good class right there. But, yeah, hats off to North Carolina. That was great.
To touch on the class and sportsmanship and all this good stuff after the game, they were asking Roy Williams what he thought about this and was it a factor with Johnson and them being sick and yada, yada, yada. Roy Williams responds, I'm not making any excuses. Auburn beat us. They were the better team. Good luck to Auburn and the Tigers going on to the next round. And that's the way it should be as a coach, especially the fan bases. I cannot stand, well, they did this, they did that. There was a bad call here, bad call there. It evens itself out. Eventually, it will even itself out on the calls. It's going to happen. It bit Duke in the butt this last round, and I'll tell you why later. But it's just a factor of Roy always being a stand-up guy and it's playing off on his kids. You know, you're setting an example for these kids. But as far as the game, Okeke was leading scorer of this entire game and didn't even play the last 8 minutes. That just attests to the type of game he was having. Auburn goes in there and just runs Carolina out of the gym. No hands in the bucket for North Carolina doing anything offensively. 97-80.
Yeah, and Auburn did North Carolina what they like to do, but they did it better. Auburn's total speed on the floor is outstanding. It's unbelievable. And before I lay into Roy Williams a little bit here, let's go ahead and give props to North Carolina seniors. Luke May, Kenny Williams, Cam Johnson. Mm-hmm. All three of us have absolute ton of respect for you three. You stayed the course. Even though Cam Johnson transferred in, he still played 2 years for North Carolina, graduated. He transferred from Pittsburgh. The three of you stayed the course when it's uncommon in college basketball for especially talented players like you inside college. Guys like Luke May's case, and really all three of them. Cam Johnson and Kenny Williams have a better shot than Luke May, but guys like that, it's okay to be great college players. Not everybody's meant to play in the NBA. You can still go make a lot of money, and you're Carolina legends. You're going to be able to have jobs in the state of North Carolina for the rest of your life if you want. You know, open up car dealerships. You can open up anything. You gave and paid your dues to the university. You were great college players. Kenny Williams, a great defensive player, worked on his jump shot. By this year, could really shoot. Cam Johnson, great shooter. Became an okay defender. Luke May, a do-it-all forward. Not the most athletic forward either, but he rebounded. All the stuff he did was pure heart. I know we don't like Carolina. We're all fans of different teams, but from the three of us, we have the highest respect for those three. And before I get into Roy Williams, I'll let you guys speak on the Carolina seniors real quick.
These guys, I mean, they've won a national championship. I know that one guy transferred in his junior year, but, Luke's won a championship. These guys they've done it all in the college basketball world. They had a hell of a run. It sucks to see them. I had them going into the championship game, if I remember correctly. But they've done everything you want to do. Roy is rubbed off on these guys in the right ways, all the right ways, as far as, teaching them how to be a class act. Never make an excuse. Always come back for the next one. If you have an opportunity for a next one, it's the next chapter is opening up for these guys, and on or off the court, I think their future is bright for these guys.
Yeah, Roy Williams, I'm a big fan of him. Obviously, I'm not a fan of Carolina, but I'm a fan of Roy Williams because his post-game conference, he gave props to Auburn, said they had a better team, did not make any excuses, and I love that he didn't do that. And about the 3 seniors, Cam Johnson, Kenny Williams, and Luke May, I like how hard all three of those dudes play with each other. They play really hard ball. They're smart, and they did a great job. They had a great career in North Carolina. It was fun watching them three.
Yeah, I mean, again, bravo to you three. I know you didn't get to where you want to be, but you did share the ACC title, and good career. That's all we can say, and we wish you the best. As far as I want to get into Roy Williams, and he's not the only one, so Carolina fans don't burn me at the stake yet. Roy Williams, the reason I want to get after him, because arguably they had one of the tops coming into this tournament. They were 1 seed for a reason. They had most people's opinion, they had one of the top 3 teams in America, and they had one of the highest percentages of winning this tournament. He was backed by experience. He was backed by leadership. He was backed by talented freshman Nasir Little. You had everything you needed to win. And Carolina is one of them programs. Now, let me preface before I get into it that each year is different. You might be at North Carolina, Kentucky, Duke, whatever, Kansas, but each team's different, and expectations should be what's the word I'm looking for? Expectations should be tendered for that particular team that particular season. But in this situation, Carolina being a favorite, a lot of people's picked to win it all, especially come through the Midwest. Yes, you ran into a buzzsaw against Auburn, and yes, it happens. But doesn't mean I'm going to let you off the hook. You have the talent. You had everything you need, and you came up short. Yes, you did share for the ACC title. But anything less than the Final Four with the type of team and everything, it's borderline a failure. I'll get into it more when I speak on Kentucky here in a little bit and explain a little bit more. But it's borderline failure. And just because it's a failure doesn't mean I'm not saying that it wasn't all good. You didn't have a good season. But with the expectations and the team you had and everything building up to it, anything less than a Final Four for this version of Carolina, it's kind of a failure. Like I said, I'll get more into it later on. Kentucky, but speaking of Kentucky, obviously Auburn moves on. Who would they play in the Elite Eight? 3-seed Houston, 2-seed Kentucky down there in the bottom part of the Midwest. The Cats open up strong. P.J. Washington's back, comes off the bench, immediately in P.J. mode. Reed Travis playing well. Tyler Hero's outstanding. Cats get to a lead, but like they've been doing here over the last month or so, they get to the lead. They fall back in the second half. Houston puts on a hell of a run. Houston changed up their defense. Houston got after it. They just wanted it more than Kentucky. They lead most of the second half.
Yep.
To the point where Kentucky needs to be bailed out at the end by Tyler Hero that has the balls the size of grapefruits and hits a shot late in the game to give the Cats a lead. Kentucky gets stopped, hits some free throws, end up squeaking one by Houston. But Tyler Hero, the dude's in it all year. We've said he's a road warrior, but he lives for big moments. We talked about last week. He went to Coach Calipari and said, I want to guard Fletcher McGee. He took that challenge on us. Sacrificed his scoring to defend the best player from Wofford. This time, needs him to score. Big shot, no problem. He's going to go down in the annals, whether he's here for 1 year, 2, 3, or 4. He's going to go down in the annals of Kentucky basketball lore just because of the type of personality and the ability to step up when the pressure is the greatest. But
Yeah.
Kentucky found a way to win, moved on to Elite Eight. It's about all I can say for that.
They're late in the game. First of all, how nervous were you?
Oh, bro, let me tell you something. We've talked about this all year about superstitions, right? Well, I'm sitting there watching Kentucky's losing. It's under a minute to go, and I'd been wearing this shirt, had my Kentucky socks on and everything. Get frustrated and take the shirt off. I'm like, damn it. I moved couches. When I moved couches, we went on like that 6-0 run to take the lead. I'm like, hell yeah. Late in the game, Houston has a chance. This after Tyler Hero hits a three to put us up. Houston has a chance to tie up or take the lead. I stand up. I won't move. I have the shirt around my neck now, no shirt on. I'm standing. I stood like that the final 30, 35 seconds of the game until the game was over with. And then after it was over with, I let out a big scream. But prior to that, especially when we're losing, it's getting close to final buzzer time, and we're losing, I'm nervous, man. I can just feel it through my body. I'm like, so, I mean, yeah, I'm real superstitious. That's my story to that.
Yeah, they're late in the game. Kentucky had two major, huge plays back-to-back on the defensive side and then the offensive side. P.J. Watson had a hell of a block, and then coming down the floor, Tyler Hero hit that three-point to put him up. And that was two huge plays that to determine the end of the game. Congrats to Kentucky. They played great. And Houston, all right season. They had a 31 season, right?
That's a really good season for Houston. Now,
Yeah.
I mentioned North Carolina, and this is the exact opposite. Houston, this is like one of them rare seasons. 30 wins, you're a 3-seed NCAA tournament, you're going against the powerhouses, Sweet 16, you had your chance to go to Elite Eight. I say a good season for Kelvin Sampson and them.
Let me tell you something about this game right here. It's probably the coolest stat you'll ever see. I didn't watch but 5 minutes this game because you guys were going to watch it, and I knew you guys had it covered. But, you know, one thing I always check is the glass. Kentucky won it 36-23. But another thing I always check is turnovers. Kentucky had 14 to Houston 7. Jeez. And even committing, twice the turnovers, Kentucky was able to pull this out. Like I said, I just dabbled in this game. I don't know what other game was on, but I just knew
Virginia Tech and Duke.
That's why I was watching. I wasn't switching back and forth, boys. I was glued to black sheer.
Were you able to see the Hero game winner though? The PJ block that led to the Hero game winner?
No,
you didn't.
It was clutch.
I just knew that you guys were watching this one, so I was like, you know what? Let's go to the yin to the yang here. I'll go to the other side. So
yeah. The final possession, I'm glad because I forgot about the PJ block. But Houston has a chance. They have a chance to ice this game and goes down the lane. I can't think of the Houston's best player, a little small guard.
Mari Brooks.
Davis.
Oh, Brooks.
Was it Brooks? Corey Davis. That's
Corey
who it was.
Davis.
He goes down the lane. PJ comes rotating over, got up, boom, led to a fast break. Hero in transition. Doesn't think about going for the two. He catches it wide open shot, and it was Davis or the Robinson was from me to you too, and goes from the side to blocking.
Yeah.
He just said, "Foul."
Yeah.
I think I've seen the replay of that now.
Man. Cold-blooded. So the Cats move on to their record, whatever it was, 30-some Elite Eight. I forgot the stat, but it breaks their own record they had already had. So the Elite Eight set. We got 4 trips to the Final Four on the line. We'll go from left to right. So Duke in the East, the 1 seed. Michigan State, the 2 seed. We have it held chalk. You have the matchup between the Dukies, Coach K, Spartans, Coach Izzo. Coach K's got the best of Tom Izzo for the majority of times that they've met.
Yep.
Tom Izzo he's got a good team, but he doesn't have this mega powerful offense, powerful team that Coach K has. And all Tom Izzo does in this time of year is win basketball games. The Spartans upset and end the Zion-led Duke Blue Devil run, just 1 game short of the Final Four. Michigan State 68, Duke 67, and what a fantastic college basketball game. R.J. Barrett killed Duke at the end of the game like he has all year, and this time it came back to bite him. How many times this season, before we get to anything else, have you seen, as talented as he is, and as many 30-point games he's had, at the end of games, has R.J. Barrett killed Duke? He tries to shoot and shoot and shoot, and he needs to get rid of the ball. And he killed him that last 5 minutes.
Yeah, they're late. You got to give the ball to your best player. You got to give it to Zion. He did not touch the ball, I don't think, at all. And RJ, he went to the free throw line, missed the first one. We talked about All-Americans. We talked about Carson Edwards, how he missed the first one and made the other two. That was clutch. But I don't know what's going on with him. He did not really play well. And this whole tournament, Duke's been squeaking by teams. They're not playing their best ball. I read a thing on Twitter after this game that really interested me, and I want to see y'all's thoughts about it. This said, everyone thought Duke was a great team. They really didn't improve throughout the season. They peaked at the first game when they dominated Kentucky, and they kind of stayed there through the whole season. And they didn't really improve, and other teams like Michigan State, North Carolina, and teams like that eventually caught up to them. And this whole tournament, Duke has not played well. They've squeezed by 2 opponents against UCF and then Virginia Tech, and eventually it came back to bite them because they got beat.
I made a Peyton-type bank on it with this. I said there ain't going to be nobody within 10 points of them until the national championship. Mm-hmm. Boy, I was wrong. Wrong. And they could have easily got bounced by UCF, not even just on the end of the game, but beforehand. These guys, I mean, RJ, this game against Michigan State had 21 points, 6 rebounds, and 6 assists. That's a good stat line, but as far as gameplay in the end of the games, these guys aren't that good. Zion and RJ, between the two of them, under 2 minutes of the basketball game, they shoot 52% from the free throw line. In college, this is one of the biggest problems I see as far as a fundamental thing is free throws. These guys kill themselves every game. It's not just Duke. It's across the country. It's terrible free throw shooting. And when you got the number 2 recruit in the country.
And 3.
Well, I mean, just between the two from the stat that I gave, RJ and Zion, between just these two alone, you shoot 52%. That's not good. That is not good. And you guys are offensive paralysis. I mean, you guys are monsters. You're not some big goofy ass 7'3" center. You guys are athletic. You have good form. Well, Zion's kind of weird, but he's just too big. Lefties are always beautiful shots. RJ, I don't understand how this can happen, but that's just another thing to add on as far as stats. It's just not good.
Yeah, and what credit to Tom Izzo. Let's go ahead and get into it because we've had a debate. We've dubbed him Mr. March, right? And we had some friendly debate, and this is what this group's for, correct? I mean, difference of opinions. But let's break down some Tom Izzo real quick. Tom Izzo, 606 and 231 in his coaching career to this point. That's a 72% win percentage. Never had a losing season. He took over Michigan State in the 95-96 season. Never had a losing season. He had his first year, I think, was 16-16. 9 regular season Big Ten titles. 6 conference tournament titles. Okay? Now let's get into the March stuff. He's got 8 Final Four appearances since 1996. That's the most in that span of anybody. 1999, 2000, 2001, 3 years in a row. Only Ben Howland and Coach K's done it in 3 years in a row like that since the tournament expanded in 1985 to 64 teams. 2005, 2009, 2010, 2015, and 2019. 8 Final Fours since 1996. 22 straight tournament appearances from 97 until now. He's 52-20. That's a 72% win percentage inside of March. The dude wins, and here's the big thing. Yeah, he's had some really good teams. That 2000 team was loaded. They had Mateen Cleaves. They had Mo Pete. They had all those guys, right? But you're not thinking about the 2010 team that was really good, but he made the Final Four with Kalen Lucas hurt. This year's team, Josh Langford hurt. Arguably their best player, their biggest scoring threat, gone for the majority of the year. The dude can get it done, right?
Yep.
2015, a couple years back, their last Final Four until now. Michigan State started the year off preseason AP 18th. The dude gets it done. It's more than just, yes, he's only got 1 championship. He won it in 2000 with Mateen Cleaves and them. But it's more than just winning the title. It's so hard to win a title. I mean, what Coach K and guys like that have done, make it look easy. Tom Izzo does it with players. He brings teams along, does it with players that get hurt, finds ways to mold guys to make them winners. And the dude to me, and I know to both of you, is Mr. March, and you can't change our mind about that.
Not one bit. How many championships does Indiana have? 5?
5.
Yeah.
Where's that rank them all time?
They are 4th. UCLA, Kentucky, North Carolina, Indiana, and Duke tied for, 4th or 5th?
When was their last championship?
1987.
And they are 4th on the all-time record of national championships, and they haven't won one in that many years.
Yeah.
It just goes to show how hard it is to win in this tournament. Getting to a Final Four is a huge accomplishment, and the way Tom Izzo does it with, I wouldn't say lesser players, but not as highly ranked players coming in and year out, 22 years in a row going. It's unbelievable. Texas Tech has never been. Auburn has never been. Virginia hasn't been there since 1984. I was born in 88. I'm 31 years old. Do the math. This is retarded what this guy is doing. It just goes. It just shows the caliber of a coach that this guy is. Every year, no matter what, Izzo is going to get in, and he's going to make a run.
And you think about it real quick. I mean, like I said, you think about a guy goes down, okay, well, we'll adjust our style. He's hard on kids. Kids mostly stay 4 years. Every occasional leave after 1 or 2. But and how many times over his career has he beaten the number 1 team inside of his bracket? Teams, like fans, fear him. I know you don't want to see Michigan State in your bracket.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter where they're at. That 2015 team or whatever, I think it was 2015, was like a 7 seed, a 6 seed. Doesn't matter where he's at. He beat Duke, the number 1 overall seed, back in 10 years ago in 2009. Beat the overall number 1 seed when Louisville was in the Elite 8. That dude just gets teams to win this time of year. So, yeah, he might not have 5 national championships or 3, but he gets to the Final Four. He wins consistently. He brings teams along, whether they're really good and should get there or maybe have underachieved. This time of year, he finds a way to bring the best out of them, and he's Mr. March to us.
When we did our rewards, our ECB awards, who was my coach of the year?
Was it Izzo?
It was Tom Izzo. And one thing, because what he's done this year to win a share of the Big Ten title and to win the Big Ten Conference Championship without Joshua Langford, and in some of those games without Nick Wood, just relying on people like Tillman and Henry and Winston, is incredible. And you have to dub him Mr. March, in my opinion. And talking about Coach K and talking about Duke real quick, I think we're all in agreement that this year, this team, Duke, was a failure of the season. They didn't make Final Four.
Yes, I agree. And again, it goes back to that point where just because we say it's failure doesn't mean it wasn't fun. They didn't have a good team. It wasn't a good season. Just they didn't get to where they need to be, and I'll get to that just real quick.
Yeah, and I got something pulled up here. I think Coach K is the greatest of all time. And since 2015, some of the players he had that come into Duke, Harry Giles III, Jason Tatum, Luke Kennard, Frank Jackson, Trevon Duval, Gary Trent Jr., Marvin Bagley III, Wendell Carter Jr., Brandon Ingram, Zion Williamson, R.J. Barrett, and Cam Reddish. He has not made a Final Four with those players at all. And that's different like teams and stuff. He's had top recruiting classes. Not make a Final Four. I know it's hard, but if you're the greatest of all time, like I think he is, you should at least make a couple Final Fours with those players.
He's on the Rushmore. He has a shot to say you can put him in a discussion.
Yeah.
But the way, not even the Final Four is a failure. I think the national championship was a failure.
So.
You have one, probably, in my opinion, the best recruiting class of all time.
I think it's the best
and
as well.
if it's not number 1, it sure as hell is number 2.
Yeah.
If you don't like my opinion on this, you can kiss my ass. Because this is ridiculous. You never, ever get the number 1, number 2, and number 3 seed.
It's the first time it's ever had.
Never. This is the first, and I guarantee it'll happen another time, but it won't be the caliber of players these guys are.
He had a once-in-a-generational player in Zion Williamson. He has a superstar in R.J. Barrett, and he's got another really good star in Cam Reddish. And you have all this hype machine. You have this, that, and the other. I'm with you. Even I said Final Four, anything less than a national title game or national title was a failure because you're expected to win. You're the number 1 overall seed. ESPN's dubbed you all year. This team that you've seen what they did earlier in the year to teams, right? Even my team, they beat the brakes off us.
Yep.
You're expected to win and win big, and you're the greatest of all time. And when you fail, it is a collapse.
Yep.
It's a collapse. You have again, Tom Izzo, great and all this, but when you're this type of Duke team, you have no business losing to Michigan State or anybody, really.
Not a shot. These guys, like we said, this was the team. I want to pull up to see how many brackets had Duke winning it. And I did too. I guarantee you it was in the 80 to 90 percentile. And if I'm wrong, whatever, I'll buy you a Polar Pop. But this is something that you just don't get such a unanimous pick. I guarantee you that there were some people in North Carolina that wear that baby blue picked Duke to win. I picked Duke to win. I am not a fan of this team, Coach Cal, whatever. But there's some moments where I have enjoyed them, but not entirely. But these guys let everybody down.
With this Duke team and with having the top 3 prospects in the nation coming into this year, no offense to Central Florida, no offense to Virginia Tech, those games shouldn't even been close. Honestly, it should be at least a 10-point margin or higher. To barely win that game against both of those was weird. It should not have been a game.
No, and we get it. Tournament games are really hard. But you're still not exempt. Just because they're really hard, you're not exempt from criticism. And the national media has how many people from the national media on Twitter, on ESPN, on CBS, on you name it, has called Coach K out for this being a failure? With all these great recruiting classes, he had like the number 1 recruiting class in 5 of the last 6 seasons. Now, I know another dude I'm going to get to here in just a little bit.
Yep.
That gets railed every single time that Kentucky does not win a national championship. Railed. Oh, all this talent can't win. This number 1 recruiting class for no reason, and this, that, and the other. But the man himself, Coach K, has the greatest recruiting class, has a great team, and gets bounced in the Elite 8, and the media goes silent. Not here. We think Coach K is great, but as I'm looking to you in this camera, this is a failure. Coach K failed. This team underachieved when it mattered. They didn't win an ACC title. They won the tournament title. But it underachieved, and it's a failure, and let's call it for what it is. Coach K does not get by with excuses and this, that, because of who he is. He might be the greatest of all time, but there's no way around it. This is a failure, and it lies at the shoes of Coach K, and I'll give you one reason for this team why it lies there, because they ran no offense, and they weren't structured on defense. Seth Greenberg from ESPN pointed it out, and I know people are, well, how? You watch Duke. There's a difference in an offense and sets. A set play is when you run a specific thing to get this person X a shot in a certain position, right? An offense is something that continuity, that continue. You can go from one side to another, and it continues.
Like a swing. Shoot, right. Back and forth.
Duke ran no offense. Coach K, he actually just sat by and let the stars make plays, and it got by on them. Their defense, they were really good for a while, but when Zion came back, they weren't the same. They were giving up points. You could straight line drive on Duke. If they couldn't block your shot or get a steal, you're getting a bucket. That's the reason UCF stayed with them. So this is a failure, and let's call it for what it is. Coach K failed this season, and actually failed the last couple with these recruiting classes, but this team is completely different because of how great the recruiting class was. So ECB's not holding any punches. It's a failed season.
My question to you guys, is this not one of the best teams to never win a national title?
It'd be up there.
Yeah,
It's definitely up
top
there.
5. It's gotta
They're
be.
with Fab Five.
The
and
Kentucky
team.
team that went undefeated.
Those are a couple candidates, but yeah, Coach K, half of the game, he just sits down and lets the players do whatever. It's basically isolation. Whoever has a mismatch, you attack it, and they don't really run any off.
Or late in the shot clock, they'll run a ball screen.
Yeah,
He had the luxury of being able to sit back and watch these kids play throughout the year, though, and that's something that we probably that we're overlooking. is just the offensive talent that he had, that he could sit back and do that. But when it came down to it, there was no continuity within their offense, like you mentioned. It was all one-on-one, like you said. It just was not the type of play that you would expect from a team like this. Now, the media didn't stop. I was home today. You know, I'm still on leave with my daughter. I watched ESPN for 2 minutes. The first 2 minutes from noon to 12:02, they covered all 4 of the remaining Final Four teams. You know what they did after that?
Talk Duke and Zion.
They talked. This is all about Zion and who was going to get the number 1 pick. Get Up on ESPN with Jalen Rose and the other guy talked about who had the biggest chance to get Zion, where they want him to go to Zion. You have 4 teams still playing. Duke's gone. They're gone. Whatever. Throw them under the rug. I know we're ranting a little bit, but this will be the last time you hear us say something about it. Yeah. They continued about Zion and Zion and Zion. I've said it in the group. I've said it on here. He is the LeBron replacement for ESPN.
So we just wanted to get that off our chest. The national medias went media silent over it. We're not. It is what it, do you guys agree? It is, real quick before we move on, it's a failed, Coach K failed.
Yeah.
He failed this season. Duke failed.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, he dove. He gone.
So let's move on. You mentioned Get Up. I was going to bounce to it, but let's go ahead. The other coach I was talking about, in the Midwest, chance for a Final Four, 2 SEC teams playing, Kentucky and Auburn. Kentucky had already beat Auburn twice. Auburn would mention without Chuma Okeke. Kentucky jumps out 17-7. I'm thinking, hell yeah, let's go. We're stout defensively. Tyler Hero's chasing Brown and Harper. Kentucky leads by 5 or 7 at halftime. I can't remember off the top of my head.
37-30, I think, or 35-30.
I think it was 7. Auburn does what they did all tournament long. Second half, they come out and put a run together. They go on like a 12-0 run, 12-2 run, take the lead, and then it bounces back and forth. Kentucky fights back. Late in the game, Auburn's up. Bryce Brown, by the way, went off. He had a hell of a game. Jared Harper goes off in overtime. I'm getting ready to get to. P.J. Washington hits a shot, put Kentucky up 2. Nobody steps in front of Jared Harper. Harper goes to the rim, hits a shot. We go to overtime. In the overtime, it was all Auburn. Auburn jumped out early, held on late, knocked Kentucky out. Auburn goes to their first Final Four. I'm seriously happy for Auburn. Yes. I said beforehand, I absolutely hated they have to play Kentucky. I said it on Facebook. I'll not go on this big, long rant, but these two have made theirs after both their teams got knocked out. So here's mine for Kentucky. We started the year off preseason ranked number 2. Number 1 in some polls, but mostly number 2 behind Kansas. And there's a lot of expectations, especially after the way we started in the summer. We went and beat up a bunch of pro teams down in the Bahamas. And we got our bell clocked, we got our bell rang. First game of the year, Duke embarrassed us. We started off slow. We lose Seton Hall. And then we finally start to put it together. Nice wins over Utah, North Carolina, Louisville. Getting the conference play. Lose first from Alabama, then go on a big run. We're able to just smash up on Tennessee. Kentucky comes in as a 2 seed, a high 2 seed. And you get to the Elite 8. Now, most years, that's a good thing, right? But not this one. I keep saying this is case by case. Mostly Kentucky, you think of, especially before the year, like, oh, we got all this talent, Final Four or bust. And I feel like that's kind of the same with this one. Now, there's exceptions to rules. That Jamal Murray-led team, had they made it to the Elite 8, it would have been a great season. That team just wasn't super deep or talented as much, but they got beaten second round by Indiana. This team, though, in this season, just like last year, the seas parted open. No offense to Auburn, but once North Carolina was out, the seas parted open. You had an easy coast to the Final Four. You didn't make it. The same way I said about Coach K and Duke, this is a failed season. It doesn't mean it wasn't fun. It doesn't mean this team wasn't good. Because I think this team was good. I think it's pretty good. At times, they were really good. But we didn't make the Final Four. You end up having an easier path than what you thought. It's a failed season. I'm just sad because obviously the season's over and it hurts every time because you invest so much into a team and then it's done. I'm sad to see Reed Travis go. He gave us so much in his 1 year. I thank you, Reed Travis. As a fan, thank you. Tyler Hero became one of my favorite cats of all time. I love the way he plays. And if you're done, sir, thank you. PJ Washington becomes one of my favorite cats of all time. He became such a great player this year, all-American type kid, gives everything he's got, great leader. Thank you. Keldon Johnson, all these guys endeared to our heart, but it came down at the end. Guard play killed us, too many turnovers. Ashton Hagens did not know what the hell he was doing with the basketball. And Auburn just red hot. And, I'll just say it, and Kentucky fans can get mad at me. It kind of frustrates me yesterday to see, we had such a great year. We had a good season, but it would end up just like Duke. It was a failure, just like North Carolina. It was a failed season. We didn't make the Final Four. It was a failed season with this team that had all the potential in the world, and the seas parted, and we didn't bust through it. Failed season. I'm not going to say Cal should be fired. That's ignorance, absolute ignorance. But it was a failed season. I love the Cats. I always will, like these two have mentioned about their teams. And on the Auburn side, you think about this run. They went through Kansas, North Carolina, and Kentucky to make the Final Four. The 3 winningest programs of all time, and they eliminated all of us. I love Bruce Pearl. Hats off to Auburn in this program. I hope you win it all. And it's about all I can say to that.
Real quick, you mentioned Coach Cal, how you think he shouldn't be fired or anything like that. And someone else, I think Cook mentioned earlier about the get-up thing. Jay Williams on there, and he posted about it on Twitter, and I completely agree. To all the people, Kentucky fans that's calling for Coach Cal and say he should be fired and stuff like that, should not complain, because under Calipari, Kentucky's had 7 Elite Eights at UK, most in the country in span, 305 wins at Kentucky, and before Cal, UK had not reached a Final Four since 1998. How many years was that?
It's been 13 years because they got it back in 2011.
13 years. That's crazy. He's a second winningest coach in UK history behind Rupp. And he's been to 4 Final Fours. I don't think he's a great coach, but he's definitely not worse. I mean, there's other people who's worse, and he's a good coach. But if you fire him or if he leaves, which I'll talk about him in a little bit, if he leaves, you can get good coaches, but what if they're worse?
Well, I ain't gonna worry about that. They just offered him a lifetime contract. Rumor is he's accepting it. But Tyler, I know this is good for you because you're not a Kentucky fan, whatever. But these people, the media rails on Coach Cal, and like we mentioned about Duke, the exact same situation in the past and nothing. What the hell? Like, why?
There's a punching bag somewhere, and it just seems to be, as far as between these two, it's Cal. This guy, like Peyton mentioned, he does produce. And like I mentioned before, it's incredibly hard to win this national championship. Incredibly hard. People just don't understand how difficult it is. Whenever, I guarantee it right now, Coach Cal's talking to a recruit trying to get him to come in. Something is in the works to continue to get better for next year. And these people think, well, they're off for 6 months. No, they're not. They are not on TV for 6 months. You may see them once or twice in the summer when they're talking about pickup games or whatever, where they're trying to, get a few kids to come play for them. But this is just a punching bag that's between the two. You got the old cat at the high class university, the more prestige university, if you want to say it, and then you got Cal over here in Kentucky. One of the best programs of all time in itself as well. Not behind Duke, but as long with Duke. They should be on the same tier as far as what you get. It's like a presidential debate. It's Democrat or Republican. One hates the other hates that, and they just pick it out and start nitpicking. I said in the group before the lifetime thing came out, I said this is Cal's job until he don't want it no more. And I still stand by it, and it just showed that UK agrees with what I said, that they offered him the lifetime. When you ever heard of a lifetime?
Yeah.
Never.
Yeah, the guy just wins, and it's silly, all that ignorant stuff. And the one thing, real quick, because we got to speed this along. The UK fans, I think your fraternity people or whoever that did that bullshit sign for Chumo Kiki that you thought was funny, ignorance, because you made us look bad. The 99% of us in the Big Blue Nation, you do that ignorant shit. So this is for you, and I know it's not appropriate, but that's for you because that's ignorance is all that is. And anybody who does that deserves that. Auburn fans or Auburn players said they seen it and used it as motivation. So screw you if you ever do something like that again. Take your Big Blue blue banner card that you claim and throw it out the window and go root for somebody else because you are not a Kentucky fan. And I'm calling you out for that. Congrats, Auburn.
Yep.
Congrats, Auburn.
War Eagle.
Beat all three of our teams. I mean, not all three of ours, but beat Kentucky or Kansas.
The three
Kentucky,
winningest programs of all time.
Yeah, just nuts.
Incredible.
Great for Bruce Pearl, first one. Who's going to join them? We've got half the field set. And real quick, Virginia-Purdue put on the best game of the tournament. Carson Edwards, 42. Kyle Guy, back and forth. They were hitting shots. Purdue has the game won up to late with like 2 seconds left. Or a little bit more than that. Virginia misses free throws. Ball gets tapped back. Diakite hit the little floater at the buzzer, expires, sends the game overtime. Virginia wins. Tony Bennett, after getting bounced by a 16 seed last year, Tony Bennett's made his first Final Four. Good to Virginia. Purdue, bravo. You had a hell of a year. One hell of a year. And we've mentioned earlier, the future's bright in West Lafayette.
We talk about this being failures for some of these teams. This was absolutely the total opposite for Purdue. This is a performance that they can hang their hat on, that they can build off of. If they bring these cats back with Carson Edwards and company, if they can bring them back, they're going to do it again. Yeah. They are going to do it again. And I was watching this game, and I was letting my wife sleep, and I had my baby on my chest, and when he hit that tip in, I about threw her in the air. I about did it. I was sitting there, and I just tensed. I was like, don't wake her up. But this was by, hands down, for me, the best, most entertaining game to watch. And I couldn't scream during it. So that was something else, too. So that was pretty wild.
Yeah, this was a crazy game. I had a lot of fun. I was really on the edge of my seat watching it, especially late. And after Diakite hit that floater to send it to overtime, it was a cool little moment because after they came back, it showed Carson Edwards, and those two were just laughing at each other, smiling. It was all fun and games. But
Carson Edwards had the best run I've ever seen in a game. Like hitting shot after shot. He was hitting them. They played Louisville. He was hitting them from Seymour and not touching the rim. Unbelievable. Unbelievable performance. The other team, congratulations again. A new first-time Final Four coach. First time their school's been there as well. Texas Tech knocks off Gonzaga 75-69. My coach of the year, Chris Beard, getting it done for Texas Tech, the Red Raiders, and we all three called that. We all three called Texas Tech in the Final Four. Defense prevailed. Good on Texas Tech. So our Final Four field is set. Real quick, we will talk about that here soon. Real quick, women's tournament, we was going to talk about that. Really, the Final Four field's not set. 2 games tonight, but UConn did beat Louisville to avenge their loss earlier in the year.
Hats off to the seniors on that Louisville team. Hats off to Asia Durr. What an incredible year she's had. She's a baller, and I hope she does well in the WNBA. And I really hope Jeff Walls stays at Louisville and doesn't take the Tennessee job, which I think he will stay. But even if he does, hats off to him too. Bravo to Connecticut. They got their revenge. Yeah.
And men's NIT's down to their Final Four. Lipscomb versus Wichita State. Texas versus TCU. I think I said last week Texas and Indiana would be in the final, so I'll stick with Texas. I've got them playing Wichita State, and I think Shaka Smart gets a postseason championship. Give me Texas and winning NIT.
I said Lipscomb and Texas, and Lipscomb taking the W.
I got Lipscomb, Texas, and I like Texas a lot. I like what they've done, so Texas with the NIT.
Good deal. We try to fit that in real quick. So before we move on, transition here, we've mentioned it before, but again, Applied Right Painting Services.
No, they do everything for you guys. It's residential, commercial, new construction, repaints, anything you want. I said at the top of the show, if you're wanting some work done, this is the guy to do it. He can do it all. He's doing good work. I like to dabble in stuff with construction as well, and I'm very nitpicky, but what I see with JR and his crew is what I like. I like the way he's doing it. If you want pictures, go to his Facebook page, find JR Rowe. You can find him in the group, then link it that way. If you want pictures another way, send it my way, and I'll get it to you. Also, if you decide that this is something that you want to do and mention, that ECB sent you to JR, we get a 5% kickback as well from this. You know, JR is our main sponsor. He does big things for us, big contributor in the group. So if you're looking for something to be done, you know, just a little, I know painting sucks, and he's got a niche for it. So if you're looking for something to go, find JR Rowe, or if you're looking for anything as far as painting, get a hold of Applied Right Painting Services.
Also, they serve the Indianapolis and surrounding areas, including Avon, Columbus, Fishers, Greenwood, and Zionsville.
So, like I said, what these guys mentioned, Applied Rate Painting Services. Call for your free quote today and get free estimates. Applied Rate Painting Services is the only place you need for all your painting needs. With that being said, we're going to take a quick pause for cause. We'll be back, talk a little Final Four action.
As promised, we're back. Final Four preview. And if you notice something, we did a set change real quick. We were back. We're sitting at the one and only ECB Table of the Minds here, guys. The round table discussion. This is what we've been building up for all year long. We got some new stuff coming behind you right here, and right here's part of it. Look at this. Look at this beautiful shiny thing.
That's right. Noah was able to hook us up in between segments.
Yeah, I ran outside, pulled off the trailer, and got it in here, boys. We're ready to go. But Josh, go ahead and take off with this Final Four preview we got
ESP
going on.
ain't got nothing on us. They got them glass tables, son. This is straight oak wood or whatever.
I don't even know. Crafted from Mike Cook himself.
Tyler kind of alluded to it as far as this is what we've been working all year for. We are at the Final Four. Minneapolis, hold on, because you've got the NCAA Men's Final Four coming at you. We've spent all year since November until now to finally get to it. And my first initial reaction when you look at these games, you've got Michigan State versus Texas Tech. You've got Virginia versus Auburn. And outside of Auburn, who plays good defense, but you look at the other three teams, the theme of this Final Four for me is defense prevails.
Lockdown. You know, I've been talking about personally Virginia, on how well I like this team. I've been riding these guys all year long. I've watched more games. This is the second most team I've watched all year behind my boys. These guys, I watched, I listened. I hope you guys listen to me as well. Virginia is the real deal here.
You mentioned defense. Fun little fact here. The Final Four has 2 projected top 10 draft picks, 3 coaches who've never been before, and the most efficient defense yet since King Palm started 18 years ago.
Which would be Virginia, correct? Or Texas Tech? Texas Tech's been number 1 in defense, but I think they're talking about Virginia.
They're talking about all around.
Oh, got it. Well, because Virginia's 3, Texas Tech's 1. I think Michigan State's somewhere top 10. I'd
Michigan
have to look.
State's 7th. I would.
7th. And Auburn played good defense to get to here. I didn't mention against Kentucky. It wasn't their offense that won the game, really. It was their defense. They played damn good D. They forced Kentucky to drive middle instead of baseline. So Defense prevails. You mentioned 3 first-time coaches. Of course, Mr. March is back there again. And it's really up wide open. At the beginning of this thing, you would thought you'd see Duke. I mean, Virginia was a favorite to get there, but you'd see Duke, and Carolina, or Kentucky, Gonzaga.
Tennessee.
But this is so wide open now that you honestly, you can theorize any of the 4 teams winning the title at this point.
Yeah, I had one team that I predicted to be in the Final Four, and that's it. Out of all 4, I only had one team.
I only have Texas Tech as well.
I had Texas Tech and Virginia. Now, if you took these games and you played them on a Monday and a Tuesday, and then if you went back and you played them on a Saturday and a Monday, you'd have totally different outcomes every time.
Absolutely.
This isn't a 9 out of 10 type game where, Duke's playing a 16 seed, 99 out of 100 times they'd win, so on and so forth. This is the type of Final Four you want to see. This is what you want. This is what you need. You got new faces, and then you got Goliath as far as March. Tom Izzo and the Sparties taking on Texas Tech, and then Virginia and Auburn's going to be a very interesting matchup.
We've always said too that defense carries no matter what. You can have a bad shooting night and still win a game because your defense locks down, scores points for you, or keeps the other team from scoring. And that's not been more true than this Final Four with these teams that we've alluded to. Now, before we get into our breakdowns, we asked you on ECB on our Facebook group to go ahead and leave your predictions for the Final Four and beyond. And we'll give you a little shout out, read them on. So we'll hold true to our word. We did this last week with shout outs and bank on it. Yep. Leading it off, we talked about Applied Right Painting Services. Well, our good friend and owner, JR, I think you're the owner, or whatever you have entitled for the Applied Right. JR Rowe says Texas Tech versus Auburn for the championship. That would be interesting. 2 first-time coaches battling it out. Be very interesting. Shane Roberts says Auburn, hottest team in it. They don't shoot that bad from deep again, meaning the Kentucky game, they didn't shoot the ball as great outside Bryce Brown.
Yeah.
And I think he's definitely right. Auburn's by far the hottest team in this thing.
Every bit of it.
Yeah, in that Kentucky game.
Like a 12-game win streak right now.
In that Kentucky game, they went 7 from 23 from 3.
We'll get into it, but does Auburn not remind you of the UConn team with Kemba Walker? As hot as they got.
But they got 2 Kimbas, Harper and Brown.
They do. They do. And they've got a better big man in the middle than what UConn had. But their run is similar to UConn.
Oh, yeah. That's a very good comparison.
Tim Foster, love to see a Tech and Auburn game, but I think it'll be Virginia and Michigan State. For some reason, I think Tony Bennett will get his team to will their way to win, which will bring a storyline from being the first number 1 seed to lose to a 16 and the next year winning the national championship. That's very interesting and very, very plausible right now. How crazy that be? A year span, however you want, 2-year span of 1 year you're a 1 seed and you lose to a 16. Next year with pretty much the same roster, you bounce back and win the national title.
Yeah, what a bounce back.
That's what a Disney cartoon movie's all about.
Yeah. That's the
you
true
get tore up and then you turn it around and you bring it back home.
That's the true story of redemption.
Every bit.
Travis Tubbs says, since I was 0-4 yesterday, I will pick Michigan State versus Virginia because I would like to see Texas Tech versus Auburn. It's a little reverse psychology there.
Yeah, I see what he's doing.
Mark Perry would love to see a Texas Tech Auburn final as well, but I'm afraid Auburn season as well as Texas Tech's come to an end. Michigan State over Virginia in the championship. Got a little love for Sparty and Mr. Tom Izzo. Peyton's friend Hunter Dean.
Yeah, he says, Auburn and Michigan State, I feel like Texas Tech can't handle Winston. That's very possible.
We will get in that. That's very interesting. Winston's really good, but don't oversell Texas Tech's defense.
Exactly.
Our good friend Johnny Stroud, Tyler.
Oh, Mr. Johnny. Michigan State versus Virginia in the final, and Izzo gets his 2nd banner.
Seems to be a common theme here. And Mr. Connor McCabe, or McCabe, or I call him McCabe.
You call him McCabe.
Watch out for Auburn. They're getting, what they said, they're getting it at the right time. I'm just
probably getting hot at the right time.
They're playing really
I think
well
that's
right
what he
now.
meant, but autocorrected.
We got you, Connor. We got you.
We got you, homie.
Which he's absolutely right. Auburn's on fire right now. So let's go ahead and get into it, fellas. We'll start off Michigan State and Texas Tech. 2 really good defenses. Michigan State, always great rebounding, led by a true leader on the floor, Cassius Winston. Cashlands is a guy that will go get you 20 and 10 every night. McQuaid can shoot. The white boy McQuaid, dead-eye shooter. Underrated athletic. He had some plays in that Duke game, though. Some of the most athletic players plays on the floor, and you had Zion on the floor.
Yes, sir.
Underrated athletic. Nick Ward down low is an absolute handful down low. Aaron Henry, the young man who Izzo ripped his ass, and everybody created this outcry. Or not everybody, a couple people, Pansies, created this outcry. Oh, he shouldn't be doing that. And what's Henry do? Responds to his coach, plays tremendous ball the rest of the tournament. And
probably the best game of the year for himself.
Still loves his coach, respects him. When they make the Final Four, you Pansies trying to ruin everything in the world, get over it.
Yeah, we'll cook on that. And I cold-heartedly believe on this. If your coach isn't screaming at you or getting into your ass to play better, he doesn't care about you. And I cold-heartedly believe that. My whole career, my whole time playing basketball, I've had coaches who get into me, and I didn't care. I didn't pout. I didn't go cry to my mom or anything like that. I came back and played my heart out because I knew he wanted me to be the best Peyton I can, and I knew he wanted me to succeed, and I knew he cared about me. So. And one person said on Twitter that he hopes these type of coaches goes away.
That's that one idiot that started the firestorm.
Just shut up.
Calls himself a coach too, but whatever.
If coaches like this go away, we're not going to have the quality of basketball that we have right now. And the quality of basketball is going down compared to what it was back in the day. I know everybody's just, you just say that. No, it's not. If you go back and you look at the Knight era, you get fundamental, tough-nosed, hard-nosed basketball. In the NBA, you talk about Larry and Magic, hard-nosed basketball. That's what it was about. And you need someone to get into you like Izzo. You still see it. Coach K gets into people. Roy Williams gets into people. But this one instance came to light for some ungodly reason. Who cares? He retaliated, or he reacted in a very positive way. 20 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists in that game where he got in trouble. But as far as that goes, coming into this game with Michigan State and Texas Tech, this is a game that anybody would love to watch as far as a matchup, as far as defense and offense.
Yeah, these games, if they're anything like the Sweet 16 matchups and Elite 8 matchups, oh my goodness.
We're in for a treat.
We're in for a very good treat. But I can see all these teams winning. I can see Michigan State defeating Texas Tech. I can see Texas Tech defeating Michigan State.
Yeah, let's just stay on this one for now.
Yeah,
let's just stay on it.
I was going to. And it's very interesting because I can see them both winning these games. Texas is the best defensive team in the nation, in my opinion. Number one in defensive efficiency. And have a star player in Jarrett Culver to back them up. MSU is a great defensive team as well. They're 7th in Ken Palm in defensive efficiency and 5th in offensive too. So they're good on both sides of the floor. And they have a star player in Cassius Winston and a Hall of Fame level coach in Tom Izzo. This matchup is interesting. I think whoever can score 60 points wins this game.
You mean the first one to score 60?
First one to score 60 points wins this game. It's going to be close. I'm very excited to see this game, honestly.
Tyler, what's your favorite stat? You've said it over and over. Or at least the stat that you look at first.
Winning the rebounds.
Tom Izzo led Michigan State teams always do or win the backboard. I guess I should say always. I'd say at least 90%. He's known for the war drill where they put football helmets and shoulder pads on in practice and fight for rebounds. So I really think the key for Texas Tech, number one, is you limit your live ball turnovers. Meaning if you throw a bad pass and it gets stolen, it leads to a bucket. If you're going to have turnovers, dead ball turnovers, travel, double dribble, anything that allows you to go back, set up your nasty defense. Live ball turnovers kill you. Number two, somebody besides Jarrett Culver needs to hit shots. I'm looking at what's his name, Benedetti kid, the Italian kid?
Moretti.
I'm looking at him to be able to knock down some shots, really help out Jarrett Culver. Texas Tech needs to hit some outside shots to get Michigan State spread out a little bit. And third for Texas Tech, and what I'm getting to, you need to be even on the glass. You can't lose the boards. You definitely can't lose them at a high rate. And more importantly, you need to be even on the offensive glass. If Michigan State starts pounding you and getting second, third, fourth opportunities, or you don't get second and third opportunities yourself, Michigan State will beat you into submission. I text these guys beforehand before we came to record.
Yep.
This is a bad matchup for Texas Tech. And what I say about that, Texas Tech, they will get up and score, but they prefer a methodical defensive cluster of a game. You've seen what they did to Michigan, 44 points. They only scored 63 themselves. This is the wrong team to do this against because Michigan State plays in the Big Ten. They are used to muck it up, physical, grind it out type games. You're playing with fire with Michigan State. Plus, they have more offensive firepower than Texas Tech does right now. And I know Texas Tech just played Gonzaga, the number one offensive efficiency rated team pretty much all year in KenPom. I understand that. But if you're playing possession for possession, you're playing in the mud, slinging mud with a team like Michigan State's going to win 8 times out of 10. I think this is a bad matchup for Texas Tech. Everything factors in. I like State by about 5.
We all got our own opinions. It's okay. It's all right. But as far as another team that I followed pretty extensively this year was Texas Tech. You know, they had a little falter there midway through the season. Michigan State's doing everything that they need to do right now to continue to win. But I think they hit their high. I think they hit their high with Duke, which they had to beat this team. But I believe they were talking the whole time from the Texas Tech and the Gonzaga game. Texas Tech can't keep playing this type of game. They can't keep running like this. They ain't going to be able to score like this. Well, they did. They've done it more than just against Gonzaga, who Josh just mentioned that they are the number one offensive team in all stats pretty much on KenPom.
Yep.
You beat a team like that who has better offensive players, you know, more high-caliber players, in my opinion, in Gonzaga. I just see the Red Raiders going not only to their first Final Four that they've already made, but to their first national championship.
I think it's very fair, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's very fair. I just think that the state matchups, I think they'd fare better against Auburn than they would against Michigan State. We'll put it that way.
I wouldn't give this a 60-40 spread to either team. This is that close of a matchup.
No, I think it would definitely, since I say State wins, I would say State like 52%, Texas Tech 48%.
And that's probably as wide of a spread you're going to get it. I bet you Greg Peterson's probably only have it that way too.
Probably. Like I said earlier, I can see both teams winning. One thing Michigan State has that Texas Tech really doesn't have, Michigan State's played a team like Texas Tech before. They've played Michigan, 3 times? And they swept them
3.
all. And Texas Tech did just beat Michigan, held them to, 44 points. But key factor in this game, who's one of my favorite players in the nation?
Jarrett Culver. He's going to have a hell of a game. I see him having about 25 points or more, 8 rebounds, 4 assists, something like that. I like the Red Raiders going. And his shoulders, like all year, it's got to be broad because he's got to carry this team. Now we have seen the Moretti kid, and there's others.
There's Mooney who's going to be able to hit.
Yeah, there's others who make plays for Texas Tech. But you got to think one aspect in both these games and in the national championship to keep in mind. These are always brand new rims, brand new everything when you set up for the Final Four. This brand new because you have to build the set, right? The other sites, for the most part, have had basketball played on them. Like the Yum Centers, obviously played all season. So one key factor, shooting, for the most part, it seems like in these Final Four is always down. Mm-hmm. New rims, new everything. And then in a dome, your peripherals, a lot of people don't think about. Your line of sight, your peripherals, when you're shooting a free throw, it's not just fans looking right here at you in a closed like gym or arena. Like you see out wide, your peripherals, you see everything in this open space, and statistics have shown it messes with free throw percentage, shooting, everything. So if a team's not shooting the ball well, then it comes down to rebounding and attacking the rim. That's why I'd like Michigan State in a matchup like this.
That's a great point. And you said you like Michigan State in a matchup like that. I actually think that favors Texas Tech more because if Michigan State's not hitting shots, Texas Tech's going to defend them really well and make them attack the rim or try to do something, get to the free throw line. And I think that favors Texas Tech just a little bit.
But State's not an all three-point shooting team. State attacks the rim.
Yeah, I know.
State attacks the rim. So that's a wash, and that's why I think State wins it on the backboard more than anything.
Mm-hmm. We'll see.
And Texas Tech, they protect the rim really well, too. So if you're not, Cassius Winston's a great player, but he's not going to have a Carson Edwards type performance. And I think that's what they're going to need from somebody as far as them keying in on individual. It's going to have to be someone breaking, completely out. Cassius is a 20-10 guy, like we mentioned, but he's going to need more than that, in my opinion.
Sorry. One thing we didn't mention in that Gonzaga game where they won was that block that dude had, and he saved it in bounds, but his foot was out of bounds, and they didn't call it, which it's controversial. They didn't call it, but yeah, I'm going with it too. That was still a hell of a block.
Yeah. So that's first half of the Final Four. The other half, Virginia against the red-hot Auburn Tigers. Virginia's obviously the pack line defense. Kyle Guy, Ty Jerome, and DeAndre Hunter. Yeah. These guys, and the Diakite is a rim protector. You have the Salt kid, big solid body that just rebounds the fins. And then Auburn, without Okeke, still scoring the ball. What I said about the rims could come back to hurt Auburn, this pack line. But if Auburn hits, this is the big if Auburn hits, the key, like I've always said against the pack line, hit threes, make Virginia spread out, and then you attack them off of a dribble drive or vice versa. As fast as Auburn is with that backcourt, could put Virginia in spots. And Virginia's played with fire, too, now. Played with fire against Oregon, played with fire against Purdue. Duke played with fire against UCF and Virginia Tech and ended up finally catching them. Man, in my heart of hearts, I want to say Auburn makes the national championship. I really am pulling for Bruce Pearl and the Auburn Tigers to win it all. I just think it's destiny for Virginia in this matchup to smother Auburn, keep them mucked up, keep them grounded. Auburn's going to hit some threes. Auburn will get out in transition a little bit, but I think it's finally the loss of Okeke comes back to haunt them. I like Virginia just to do what Virginia always does, find a way to win. Even if it's close to the end, you know a guy like Kyle Guy, no pun intended, is going to hit a shot. I think Virginia finds a way.
This game is tough for me because Auburn has not faced a team quite like Virginia yet, and one of Virginia's big weaknesses is if teams hit threes on them, it's terrible for them. R.J. Barrett and Duke, they hit a little bit of threes on them, and they end up winning that game. But if Auburn is going to shoot the ball better than what they did in the Kentucky game. They went 7 for 23 from three-pointers in that game. Auburn needs to hit at least 15 threes to have a chance, in my opinion. I think even though they beat Kentucky with not shooting the ball well, a team like Virginia, who doesn't defend the three really well, actually they do, but if teams hit it, they're not very good for Virginia. Purdue went 14 from 32 from deep and nearly beat them in overtime. Probably should have, but whatever. Kyle Guy is a great scorer, and I don't know if people realize this, but back in the game thread for that Virginia and Purdue game, people were hauling, complaining about how Kyle Guy was so open on some of those shots. If you just watch him, he's a great off-ball screen. He can run those off-ball screens better than anyone in the nation, in my opinion.
They do a tremendous flare screen for Kyle Guy. They start him up top. He passes the ball, and it's like a little up flare screen that gets him down in the corner wide open.
Yeah, he's great on off-ball situations. Just watch how hard he runs off those screens. It's easy for him to get open and hit those shots. He shoots 45% from three. And it's hard to guard a player like that. But it's going to be a tough matchup for both teams. I like Virginia winning this one.
Say it one more time.
Virginia.
Okay, I'm just making sure. Just backtracking a little bit. You said it just wasn't the type of play.
Well, they proved me wrong.
I'm just ribbing at you.
I get it.
I'm a little punk sometimes. We got. Wouldn't it be just a magical thing to see two teams that's never been there
play for a national title.
To play for a national title? You got Bruce Pearl, who's just one of he's the Chris Farley of the NCAA coaching corral.
Did you see him too after Chuma and after the post game after beating North Carolina? He started crying. Good redemption for Bruce Pearl.
A very genuine guy. Auburn played fantastic ball the first two rounds. Against Kentucky, they played inspired basketball because of Okeke coming in, the stupid ass sign that was made. They came inspired. But I believe the luck runs out here, not only because of how high I am on Virginia, but I have not seen a team in a long, long time play at such a high level offensively. You mentioned the rims being tight and all this shit, but I don't think the rims being tight are going to affect Harper and Brown. These guys are they're just pure scorers. You can take them out. You could take them out to the Park and Rec in Edinburgh. They'd get buckets. You could take them to Minneapolis. They're going to get buckets. But I do not think that they're going to get as many as they need against Virginia and Kyle Guy. You know, you want to talk about Kyle Guy coming off screens. If you want a type of a comparison as far as players coming around screens and picking pops and stuff, you can look at a Jimmer Fredette. Mm-hmm. You can look at a JJ Redick, and JJ and Jimmer are still doing it. Jimmer just got his opportunity to come back over here after averaging 79 points a game in China. But you know, you got a player. He's not that caliber of a shooter, but he is that caliber of a worker. And I think that behind Kyle Guy and an Indiana native, you know, repping Indiana where we're from, it's something that I think that Virginia needs after last year and all this stuff. So I believe Virginia, in a very close one, very low scoring as well, takes Auburn out.
You know who this Auburn team reminds me of? And you say Connecticut earlier, and that's a great comparison with Kemba Walker. And this might be a little homerism, but I don't care. This team reminds me of the 2013 Louisville squad. The whole thing going on with Kevin Ware getting injured, snapping his leg, and the way their guards have, because Louisville had had Russ Smith, and they had Luke Hancock can go get buckets, and they had like Gorgia Dieng. It reminds me of that squad, honestly.
I respect that. I understand like the situation, but the only thing that they have in common, in my opinion, is the injury. That Louisville team, I think you need to remember too that they were one of the two best teams all year with Indiana. That team was loaded. So the only thing to me that really similar is the injuries in the tournament. But I mean that's fine. But there you go. So we in the championship game, I have Virginia and Michigan State, and you want to say, well, I don't think Tom Izzo's great until he only has one banner or one title. Well, here you go, doubters, because I like Sparty to figure out Virginia. I've mentioned all the reasons why I think Izzo's great and why this Michigan State team defends, rebounds. They're going to hit just enough shots. I think they're deeper than Virginia. Give me Tom Izzo for his second national championship.
I got Texas Tech facing off against Virginia, two teams who's never been into a national title game. I think it's going to be definitely a defensive battle, number 1 versus number 3 or 4, and it's going to be a good game, but Jarrett Culver is one of my favorite players, and I like Tech winning the national title.
We all got different ones here, guys, I think. Who'd you pick, Josh?
Michigan State.
Michigan State, Texas Tech. I have Texas Tech versus Virginia. Virginia got bounced the first time ever, 16-1 last year. I think this is the perfect Cinderella story. They're going to put the icing on the cake. They're going to blow the candle out on this one. This is probably going to be the coolest story in college basketball in such a long time. You go from worst to first. It's just it's going to be, I mean, not literally worse, but the worst loss to turn around and win in the big dance. I see Virginia. I like Culver as well. They're a Big 12 team. I love it. But I just think that Virginia is more established right now as a team. They don't have they can't spread the scoring out as much as Virginia can, and they're not used to that gritty lower scoring games. Texas Tech is a little bit higher scoring, and I think the lower the scoring, the better chance Virginia has, and Virginia's going to have another chance to have an Oregon type performance, 53, 55 points, and they're going to win this one.
They might be the most, and I mean this with all due respect, they might, if Virginia wins, it might be the most boring team. But it's just because they're so good defensively.
Visibly.
They don't try to like push it in transition. That's all I mean.
Exactly.
No, I agree.
So with that said, you've heard it here first. Final Four preview, and we've all three got, like we did originally in the tournament, we've all three got 3 different national champions: Texas Tech, Michigan State, Virginia. We all love Auburn. We all love the Auburn story, and I'm pulling openly for Auburn. I just think it's a bad matchup. Bad matchups. With that said, we're going to take one final pause for the cause, and when we come back, we're going to start wrapping things up. We'll catch you on the other side.
We got a game plan and we put it in a bag. We try to build fans, y'all a game that respect. And not the rubber bands, yeah, I know it sounds crazy, but we ain't trying to get rich, homie, yeah, you know it.
Trying to live a good life, living the dream without a care in the world. I know it takes time.
another song that'll make you bob your head and smile and say, man, this song's a banger. But it's easier said than done, especially when you're alone with the funds and working your butt off producing this music you're doing because it's what you love. And all you want is a buzz, eventually getting your break in the club and rocking the mic for the people and shit with the shit. We got a game plan and we put it in a bag. We tryna build fans, y'all a game that respect. And not the rubber bands, yeah I know it sounds crazy, but we ain't tryna get rich, homie, yeah you know it.
Trying to live the good life, living the dream without a care in the world.
And we're back. Hey, we got some news for you guys, some coach hirings and firings and stuff like that. So I'm going to send it to you, Josh. Take it away.
This is that wacky time of the year where coaching, we've already seen some firings now, like some hirings are actually taking place. I actually think last week the news was all about firings, to be honest, or coaches being released or whatever. But we do have some hirings, coaches in new landing spots. And they're all big ones, too, in their own ways. Nebraska hires the mayor, Fred Hoiberg.
Oh, boy.
Former Iowa State head man and
Chicago
just last
Bulls.
coach, Chicago Bulls. That's an A+ hire for Nebraska. Nebraska's another team, no offense, Cornhusker Nation, but you're not basketball royalty. You're not even on the map.
No, they play at 100 yards. They don't play at 94 feet.
That's right. You're not like even on the map. There's mid-majors that's got better history, but this I'm telling you right now, Fred is a great coach. He's going to play a fast. You've seen it at Iowa State. He's going to play a fast system. You're going to shoot a lot of threes. He's going to bring players into Nebraska because of the whole, one, they'll want to play for him. Two, they'll want to play in the Big Ten. So you're going to start bringing in stars you've never seen, like 4 stars. I don't know if he'll get any 5s yet, but you're going to bring in some really good 4 stars, some good 3 stars, some good. He loves the transfers. Good Lord. How many players at Iowa State did he have that became superstars that would transfer in?
Oh, I hated it. I hated it.
And you've seen what he did at Iowa State against the likes of Kansas. So that's an A+ hire. Nebraska, within 3 years, once he starts getting some of his guys in, Nebraska, they might not win the Big Ten, but they're going to start getting to where they finish in the top 4, top 5 of the Big Ten and making maybe Sweet 16s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They could do it.
What do you guys think?
Hoiberg is one of my favorite coaches that I hate because of how well he did against Kansas at Iowa State. But I can't. That's the only reason why I don't like him. He does everything else perfect. And he went up to the big leagues and he did okay. But he's like, college is my thing, so I'm coming back down. And I wouldn't have picked Nebraska. I mean, as far as like for him going there, not me personally. I wouldn't pin him as a Nebraska guy. Maybe UCLA, maybe somewhere like that. But this is a shocking hire, but it's an amazing hire for Nebraska.
Well, this is the thing. He was linked to UCLA, and for Nebraska, they get him. I mean, he must just love the Midwest, like because being from Iowa.
Tornado Valley. I don't know what that's all about.
Yeah, but you guys know the style he liked to play at Iowa State. It's going to be fast. It's going to be loose. It's going to be fun. They're going to shoot a bunch of threes. Nebraska, in a couple years, once he starts getting his system and players, they're going to be a problem.
Quite the opposite of the Big Ten type of play.
Oh, grind it out, gritty, like sometimes can be real ugly, but it's going to be fast and loose in that conference.
It's going to be interesting to see how that style is going to work against Big Ten.
What would you grade this hire? I give it an A+ for Nebraska. By these standards, getting Fred Hoiberg's an A+.
There's no other grade other than an A+.
A++.
So, in California, one of the worst, maybe the worst Power 5 school in the nation. Remember, we railed them this year. They were like 0-for in conference and then finally got a win. Just bad, right?
Yep.
Obviously, they fired their coach, looking for a new one, and they hired former Georgia headman, former Nevada headman, Mark Fox. Mark Fox is a tremendous coach. He will do good things at California if given time. He's not the type of coach like a John Calipari or even like a Fred Hoiberg. He's not that type that's going to come in and change your program in one season. He'll get good recruits. He'll sneak in a 4-star here and there. He might even get a 5-star. Well, actually, he had Ashton Hagen signed up to come to Georgia, 5-star. Yeah. He left, and Hagen's reopened his commitment or opened his recruiting because they didn't want to play for Tom Crean. Went to Kentucky. So he'll get some recruits in California. That's a place, too, that you should be able to eat up out in that area. But it's going to be a process. it'd be like a 4 or 5 year deal to get California back to relevancy. But Mark Fox is a tremendous X and O coach, really knows the game, and I think it's a good hire. I would give it a grade of, for California, I'd give it a grade of a B+.
Yeah, with a hiring like that and Mark Fox going to California, a big-time school in Pac-12, this is a good hire, but like you said, you need to be patient. 4 or 5 years, it's going to take a process. Don't do what Vanderbilt did.
Fired Bryce Drew after like 3 years.
3 years when he had players like Darius Garland and people like that. Just trust the process, honestly. I know that's a fun thing that Joel Embiid likes to say, but it's really trust the process.
You know, you just like you said, it's everybody watches these shows and they watch a house get flipped in 30 minutes on HGTV when it takes 3 months. You know, it's the same thing with this. You got to give guys an opportunity to get players in and build their system. You know, it's as far as Cal, they have nowhere else to go but up. With Mark Fox, I think they took an extra step. I think they skipped a step on the rail here, and it's a very good hire for Cal.
Yeah, I gave mine, I'd said a B.
Oh, I forgot. Sorry. B-.
I'll say B+ on it. I think I'm pretty high with Mark Fox.
Yeah, I don't know why Georgia originally fired him in the first place. Coach, actually, John Calipari came out, was against it. He's like, why are we firing coaches who are really good like that? But it's neither here nor there. Another hire, Alabama, inside the SEC, hires Nate Oates from Buffalo. Nate Oates is a good coach. You've seen what the Buffalo's success the last few seasons. Tournament teams, top 25, really good players. It's not a home run hire for Alabama. Alabama, I thought, could get a more high-profile name, but it is a good hire. Nate Oates is a very good coach, a younger coach, so you have some youth on your side. And the next Coach K, Calipari, Izzo, whoever, has got to start somewhere. So maybe this will be that guy and could lead Alabama basketball for the next 40 years or whatever to prominence. I'll stick with it. I give it a B. I think it's a good hire. Not a great hire for Alabama, but a good hire. And I think Nate Oates has a good shot of doing something.
I'll give it a B as well. It's not a bad hire, but maybe could have got better. I don't know. Trust the process. Give him time to succeed.
Yeah, Alabama's always going to live under the football's big thumb there, but they're turning around. They've had some big games this year. They've won some big games, and they're trying to up the ante here in the SEC, and I think they got a good hire here.
The first win by Nate Oates, by the way, is that originally when they fired Avery Johnson, or he left, or however you want to look at it, that Kyra Lewis Jr., the 17-year-old, that's a really good point guard, had put his name in the transfer portal, and so did John Petty, former 5-star kid. Nate Oates has already, within his first couple of days, got John Petty to stay at Alabama. It's his first win. Good start for him. Just came out today, too, not long before we came here to record. Rick Byrd decides to retire from Belmont.
Okay, thank you.
Belmont is a good job for somebody. He's built that program pretty much from scratch. Belmont is a good mid-major job. But I think in the short term, unless they hire somebody with a big name value, like a Bryce Drew or something, I think short term Belmont struggles.
Yeah,
I think so it really hurts them.
I think so too. I mean, they made the tournament, and I thought they'd go decently far, maybe Sweet 16. And yeah, that sucks to him retiring, but it's all good.
It's his time. Sometimes you just want to take a step back, and I can't knock a guy for wanting to retire. This is, you want to ride off in the sunset, and this is probably a good time for him.
Yeah. Again, with the wacky season with coach firings and hirings, this is a time where people start declaring for the NBA draft. 3 draft decisions came out within the last 24 hours. Nasir Little from North Carolina, no surprise, put his name in, and officially in his statement said that even though he said something like along the lines of, although my career as a Tar Heels ended, so it tells me he's hiring an agent.
Yep.
Nasir Little, a top 10 prospect. Everybody expected him to go anyways. So Nasir Little off to the NBA.
Honestly, my honest opinion, I thought he should stay for another year, but I get it. Money situations, you being a lottery pick, I totally get it. I'm not saying it's a bad decision, but he didn't have the best year, and I thought someone like him would benefit staying another year.
Nah, I think his draft, unless he came out and had an All-American type year, his draft stock only goes further. A kid like that who came in already a top 5 prospect has already slipped to like 9th or something. Nah, you go.
I can agree with both. Like you said, he didn't have the greatest year, but coming in, I think he could benefit from another year because he'd get be more experience, be a better player coming out, and he has the opportunity to do that if he came back to become an All-American type player. But you got to go where the money's at, and I can't fault him for running to it. So I can agree with both of you, but I think it's a smart move for him to go ahead and get out of the way.
Yeah, another decision that really comes as no surprise. He was injured half the year, former 5-star prospect, Bol. As soon as Oregon season ended to Virginia the other night, he declared for the draft. He is hiring an agent. He did say that much. Bol is a guy I think is on the inside the lottery, maybe just right outside. He's going to be a first-round talent. I mean, he's a 7-foot guy that shoots threes regularly. Scrawny as a rail, but he can really score, dynamic, run the floor, shot block. So you remember his dad, Manute Bol, 7'5", 7'6", 7'7", whatever
Washington
he was.
Bullets.
So he's got a pedigree. He was only there for 1 year anyways. Only played half season because of an injury. So no surprise there.
Yeah, no surprise.
My Shaquille O'Neal Award winner, Bol, go out there and do you something, big guy.
Now here's one. This kid is, I don't know what he's rated as far as NBA draft stock, but he's a really good player in college. Horton Tucker from Iowa State has declared. I don't know if he's hired an agent or is planning to, but maybe he's just testing the waters. But if he decides to stay in the draft, I think that's a big loss for Iowa State.
This Horton Tucker kid, I watched him a couple of good times, and he is a pivotal piece for this team. He can do it all. He can score. He can defend. He's got such a long wingspan too. He could be a Trevor Ariza type in the next level at full potential. I'm not saying he's going to hit it, but at full potential, I can see a Trevor Ariza type career with this guy, a journeyman defensive guy, maybe get him a championship. I like the move.
We'll see. I think it's a good move too.
We'll see. Peyton, we haven't done it in a few weeks. You got some recruiting news real quick?
I do have recruiting news here, and I wanted like a cool name for this segment. I need to think of something. I want something cool name. But starting off, we got 5-star forward Trenton Wofford will likely make his college decision at the Jordan Brand Classic on April 20th. His choices are...
No surprise he did it on 420.
Yeah, what's up? Well,
his choices are Memphis, Duke, Indiana, LSU, and Alabama. I say LSU's out of the running, in my opinion, with Will Wade most likely getting fired or released.
He's gone.
And Alabama just hired a new coach. We mentioned him earlier. I think they're out of the decision too. So it comes down between 2 teams, Memphis, Duke, and IU. Duke has yet to offer him a scholarship, but he said after March Madness, he's going to take an official visit there, and they're most likely going to offer him. If I had to take a choice, if I had to make a guess, I'm saying Memphis.
I say IU. I think he follows in his brother's footsteps, and I think Indiana makes up for not getting Keon Brooks by getting Trenton Wofford.
100% agree with IU. Like you said, his brother, he wants to go in there and do what he did. Maybe have a big time shot, something. He just wants to stay at home and do the thing like his brother did. I believe IU. Speaking
of Alabama and their new coach, 4-star Raymond Hawkins has committed to Alabama.
Good.
Now, see, that might be interesting. If they bring back John Petty, they get this kid, bring back some of the guys. If they can get Kira Lewis, that might actually sway Trenton Wofford knowing I've got some pieces around me. Maybe. That could be very interesting.
Maybe. And 5-star Matthew Hurt has announced he will make his college decision on April 20th. And
420 again.
Hey, boy.
What's these kids doing it on 420?
They're trying to be cool.
They're going to be. They'll commit, and then there'll be an investigation realizing that they're all smokers, and they'll be suspended.
They can stroke and they can toke. What's up with that?
His choices are Kentucky, Duke, North Carolina, and Kansas.
Boy, I wish he had a blue blood on there.
Yeah, well, sorry-ass list.
I think all 4 of these teams could benefit having him there. I'm going to be biased, though. I'm saying he's committing to Kansas. And I'm pretty sure Kansas is a favorite for him.
I would like to say Kentucky. I do know that they're in on him and that they've made some ground here lately, but I'm going to say that He just sounds like a Dookie. He's a big white kid that's a stretch 4 that can shoot. I think Duke's going to go all out. Drop the bag, if you know what I mean. Wink, wink.
Oh, boy.
For him. And,
God.
Crisp $100 bill.
and I think he goes to Duke.
Okay.
Kansas. He's going to go over there. He's going to take Prison Mitch playing time, and he's going to go over there in Kansas. He's going to help us turn it around.
Kansas needs some,
We're going to have
consistent
We're going to have
shooters.
Oh boy, we're going to have Deidre Glosson. We're going to have
Azubuike if he comes back.
Azubuike. He's coming back.
He should. Yeah.
Bank on it. How about that? Azubuike.
I think it's down between Carolina and Kansas for the running for him. And last thing on the recruiting news, 5-star Cole Anthony unveiled his top 4 schools. Those schools include North Carolina, Oregon, Notre Dame, and Georgetown. I almost said Georgetown. What the hell? And I'm saying he's going to North Carolina. I don't think it's any doubt that he's not committing to North Carolina. No offense to Oregon, no offense to Notre Dame, and no offense to Georgetown. They're just not the Tar Heels.
I'm going to surprise you. I think he goes out to where Oregon's at for the Nike. I think he loves that whole atmosphere, and I think he surprises and plays for Oregon.
North Carolina.
It'd be interesting to see if Kobe White comes back or not. Because if he leaves, I definitely say he goes to Carolina. But we'll see. And that's the end of the recruiting news.
Interesting. Recruiting is going to pick up a lot as the season ends. Moving down, though, speeding this thing up, we'll get into our shout-outs. Shout-out. Peyton, real quick, you take it away.
My shout-outs are, number 1, Trey Jones, who dropped a career-high 22 points and 8 assists in the win over Virginia Tech. And you guys know what happened. Duke lost to Michigan State, and he bawled his eyes out in the post-game conference. He bawled his eyes out. I really feel for him. I really like watching him play, but congrats to him. Shout out to him. My next shout-out is Texas Tech for making their first Final Four in school history. My number 3 shout-out is Chuma Okiki, who scored 20 points and 11 rebounds in the UNC upset. And I hope players for him, tore his ACL, but I hope he does well. I hope he comes back stronger.
Yeah, that's so shitty.
Terrible.
With my shout-outs, how about this? Bruce Pearl making his first Final Four, vindicated after all the BS with the Tennessee getting fired, put on a show clause for the whole barbecue incident. It just exonerated from the game for a while. Comes back to a really bad Auburn program at the time. It had fallen on hard times and builds them back up. Auburn's a place to be. Even I know they got some stuff going on with the assistant coach of his, Chuck Persons. But God dang it, Bruce Pearl, you made a Final Four. I'm happy for you.
Old Sweaty
Good
Betty.
stuff. Second shout out, I'd be remiss without shouting out my dude, PJ Washington. If that is your last game in Kentucky blue and white, then I applaud you. Went out with 28 points, literally carried the Wildcats there against Auburn, even in a losing cause. You've been fantastic. You've turned yourself into an All-American. I salute you. My third shout out, I'm going to the women's game. Her career is, I think, ended. She was a senior.
She's a senior. She's gone.
Her career ended in a loss to UConn. Asia Durr from Louisville, absolute fantastic scorer. Shout out to you. And my fourth one, we give them a hard time. We've been fatigued with them, but it's not the kid's fault. So shout out to Zion Williamson for being an absolute superstar in college. It's not his fault. You listen to him. He sounds like a fun kid. He never really made it about himself. He always talked about the team. He came back when I thought he should sit out. He gave us, even if he's only in college for a year, he gave us a year worth of highlights. Fun player to watch. Shout out to you, sir.
Yeah, I said that last week. It's not his fault. Cook?
This isn't going to be one of my most prolific shout-outs because I like the little guy. We don't have no more Mike Dom. We don't have no more Chris Clemens. It's okay. But I got some for you. 2 teams, 4 shout-outs. Starting off here with Ryan Klein against Tennessee. 27 points, 10 of 13 from the field, 7 of 10 from 3. He even tossed out 4 assists on top of that. Ryan Klein with the goofiest little hitch in his shot. Barely any rotation. Barely even hit the rim all night. Just cashing buckets the entire evening, especially in the end and the overtime against Tennessee. Mr. Klein, well-deserved. We're going to stay with the Boilermakers. Carson Edwards.
There you go.
Yeah.
Carson Edwards. I've trashed you a little bit. You sent me a tweet and told me to shut my mouth. Watch what I can do. Mr. Edwards against Virginia, 42 points. We've said it before. I'm going to tell you one more time. 14 of 25 from the field, 56%. 10 of 19 from three-point. That's over 50%. Carson Edwards did everything and anything that he could do to wheel and deal this team over Virginia. It was just a hair short, but Carson Edwards, you were not at fault at any point in this game. You did everything you needed to do. Carson Edwards, shout out. Aaron Henry, Michigan State.
There you go.
Aaron Henry, on the season, you averaged 6 points, 3.9 rebounds, 1.5 assists. Against LSU, after Izzo gave you what you needed, he gave you the fire. He sparked it. He threw the gas on it. You came in with 20 points, 8 rebounds, and 6 assists to help in a very emphatic win over the LSU Tigers. So, Mr. Aaron Henry, shout out to you. And we're going to stay with the Sparties. I'm going to shout out the Sparties. You took down the Mammoth. You took down Goliath. You took down King Kong. Whatever you want, whatever analogy you want to put with it, as far as being the king, being the monster, you took down Duke. So shout out to you guys. Shout out to Mr. March Tom Izzo. If you don't agree with me on that, we can meet out in the parking lot. I don't give a rat's ass. Mr. Izzo is the man. He is the one that did it, and he beat the most talented team in the field. So, Mr. Izzo and the Spartans, hats off. I hope you guys have a good showing next round. I don't know how well it's going to go, but you guys will always show up and do well. So that's my shout-outs.
Well, go ahead and lead in with your bank on it. Give us a bold one, Mr. Cook.
You want a bold one?
You missed last week. Give us a bold one.
Is my nose growing? Is it April Fool's?
Yeah.
Because I just bullshitted you a little bit ago, boys. I said Virginia's going to win it. I lied. April Fool's, Pinocchio, whatever you want to call it. This is a consolation prize for me. The national championship comes to the Big 12 with Texas Tech defeating Virginia and or Auburn, whoever makes it. Texas Tech, Red Raiders. First ever Final Four appearance, first ever championship game, first ever banner. Take it home, Texas Tech. We got you.
Man, me and you, we have the same idea because I said Texas Tech was going to win the national championship. April Fools, I like Michigan State.
You can't take my okey dokes.
I wrote it down. Michigan State beats Texas Tech, and Michigan State defeats Virginia to give Tom Izzo his second national championship game. And listen, Michigan State's a really good basketball team. Cassius Winston leads them, a.k.a. Cash Winston. And I think Michigan State and the Spartans are going to do it. Even though I don't like them, I think they're going to do it.
Well, my bank on it's real simple, and I'm not BSing. You guys are April Fools. And
Pulling the rug on you.
bank on it, Auburn hits 15 threes or more on Virginia. Even though they do that, they will lose, but Auburn will put on a show for the people in Minneapolis. Bank on that. Take it to the bank. And lastly, moving on as we wrap this up, we got some final thoughts. And, you know, just to kind of tie everything in, I took some time. Normally I just kind of wing my final thoughts and try to be real thoughtful about it. But I took the time to write them down. My final thoughts: when our favorite team season ends, it's never easy, or at least it shouldn't be. If you're truly invested, it should sting, it should bother you for a day or more after. We as fans put months of time getting to know these players, buying the merch, buying tickets to go see them, and trash talking other teams of trash talking other fans of teams, counting down the hours and minutes literally until tip-off time again. I know I do. I know you guys do.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
When it ends, it's more than the end of another season. It's a true emotional draining and fatigue. We all go through it every year except for one fan base. This is the beauty of the sport we all love so much. Where was that? Oh, just remember to breathe through these times and try not to take frustrations out on others. I know it's a long wait until October when practices begin again, but it'll be here before you know it, and the journey will begin all over again. Just a reminder that it does suck, and we as true fans, we know the passion, and when losing sucks and it ends, it should bother you. just some of us just take a deep breath, take a step off the ledge, let it soak in, and then it's time to move on because now we think about next year. So,
pretty good. Who's next? Me?
Who we got on the list? Go ahead, Peyton.
It looks like me. So that's a great point with what you just said. And I seen on Twitter, Coach Cal talked about his guys after that loss and said, this should hurt. And if it doesn't, you're not a competitor. And I agree with that. I usually write something down, but today I'm going to wing it. We are finally seeing the Final Four teams in the NCAA tournament. It's very exciting stuff. I'm ready to watch these games. I really hope these two games between Virginia and Auburn and Texas Tech and Michigan State is as good or even better than the Elite Eight games or Sweet 16 games. I really hope so. We've prepared all year for this, studying these teams, watching them, watching how they play throughout the season, the up and downs, and it's very exciting. I cannot wait to watch these games, and it's going to suck because the season's over and we're going to be preparing for next year. But don't worry, even though the season's over, our content's not going to be over. We'll still have some stuff for you. So that's all I got to say.
Yep, and we, like he said, we got stuff rolling behind the scenes. We're going to continue to build. But my final thoughts throughout the year, I've had, just pretty bland ones. I've had some pretty angry ones. I've had some stuff where I've thrown shit, took my shirt off, shook some rattles and stuff. But for this year and everything, as far as everything building up, this has probably been the funnest season for me to watch, not only as a Kansas fan, but as a basketball fan and personally in my life. I got to go down to Rep and watch my boys play Kentucky. My birthday's in March. I just had my daughter. She's in March now. I got to see Metallica in March. And this program that we do as well. It's something that's something very cool and very special to us that we've been able to come together and do this. I mean, we've known each other forever. I've known Peyton since he's probably shitting in his diapers when he was like 9 years old when I first met him. But but I've known these guys for a long time. And this is just another cool facet to our friendship and everything else. And I've kind of been lethargic personally in my life and right now, but with everything that's came along, I get to go see a bucket list band. I got to go see a bucket list stadium. I had a life-changing moment with my daughter. There's a lot of stuff that's lit a fire under my ass as far as personal stuff and everything that way. But we'll just continue to roll with that. It's something special. And seeing these kids light it up back and forth all season, and especially in Madness, the Elite Eight games and everything like that, it's something that I needed personally to continue to strive at a physical level that I push myself at, and to push myself with this as well. I've kind of the last couple of months took a step back as far as pushing myself towards a type of goals that I want, and since that Kentucky-Kansas game, it started, and now it's continued to grow, and my fire is back. You're going to see a lot of personal things get better with me, with this program, and myself. The snowball's rolling with me again. I almost got a little emotional there, but I choked her back. There's a lot of stuff that I'm not mentioning, but it's a great thing to have this program. Having my daughter, just everything that I said compound together is something that's really special to me, including this tournament. And it's not over. We're still rolling. So we're going to continue. We're going to come back after these final four games, and we're going to hit you in the face again with another great program here at Premier Giant Studios. We're going to have Applied Right Payment Services always backing us. EPW, they're always doing stuff. Check them out for WrestleMania coming Sunday. Premier Giant Productions doing something with WrestleMania as well, I believe. So on top of that, I know I had a little spiel there, but we'll wrap it up with me.
No, it's all good, man, and it encapsulates. And like we mentioned, the top program, we're finally here. We've worked since November to get here, but we're finally here, Final Four. When we come to you next week, we will be back on Sunday next week, back to our regular schedule, and we'll be from Sunday here on out. We will know who's in the championship game, and we're one step closer to crowning a champion for our first season of everything college basketball as well. It's went fast, but You guys stick with us, and we thank you for that. With that being said, wrapping up episode 18, we will catch you next week, next Sunday, with another live edition from Premier Giant Studios. Like Tyler said, presented by Applied Rights Painting Services for episode 18, the Final Four edition of Everything College Basketball. Josh Burton.
Peyton Burton.
I've returned, Tyler Cook.
We will catch you next Sunday. Everything College Basketball. We out.
Booyah. That's all, folks.